So
Hey.
Eddie, how's the holiday, man?
Yeah, it's been
Good holiday?
It's been good. It's been really, really good. Nice. I guess it's all coming. It's all coming to an end. We're getting ready for yet another year.
Yeah, man. All the holiday activations was great to see on Kick, man. I know we got some like New Year's Eve stuff coming up. I think BB Jess is doing kind of like a Ryan Seacrest type of countdown thing, and then Whittle Bears had like some gingerbread activation, and
Oh man,
Lauren
that gingerbread
LA.
one, I love that. The Kick Awards today.
Yeah. She did the Kick Awards last night, so that looked like it turned out really well for her, man.
Yeah, no, it was amazing to see. I tell you, it's just so cool when the community kind of gets around stuff and just runs it from the ground up. Like, it was, to be fair, really well executed and really well deserving winners. And it just goes to show the strength of the community and the fact there's so many people that have been around for like the full 2 years as well. So many familiar names still dropping by. I was hanging out in the chat there today and it's just like, wow, I kind of like recognize almost everyone. I was like, it's kind of cool when you've got this such a tight knit community. But yeah, it's been an awesome December here on Kick. We've seen a whole bunch of amazing different styles of content, a whole bunch of really cool series, bunch of subathons, a lot of exciting stuff. Looking forward to some of the plans for New Year's Eve. I remember last year, New Year's Eve being really big. There was a lot of stuff going on. So I'm assuming there'll be a few great streams planned.
Yeah, it's going to keep growing, man. And listen, it's really cool to have this guest on today, TIPSOUT, CEO of OTK, because look, one thing that Dan Clancy got right about some of his comments is that Twitch has a good community. They have a very stable community, but that takes time. That takes a lot of time, right? And OTK is one of those communities that coalesced, came together organically, kind of like what we're seeing with a lot of our Kick streamers do, right? Like, you get these guys started doing their own shows, doing their own content, doing their own original series, like well before they were even OTK, right? I mean, these guys got guys like Soda Poppin', you guys have guys like S-Fan, have guys like Osman Gold and, Extra Emily. So this guy's got to navigate a lot of egos in the same room. And a lot of these guys are owners of OTK, but these guys have been running together for so long that for TIPSOUT to kind of step in as CEO, I think it was like 2020. I think OTK kind of exploded during COVID, like so many other like different orgs. But what was cool about OTK, man, is like TIPSOUT took them into different areas, like into like Mad Mushroom, which is like a game developer, right? Or Starforge that builds PCs, and they even have like a studio out in LA called We Play Studios. So these guys went from like, a bunch of people just hanging out, kind of like what Lauren LA is doing, to, 6, 7, 8 years later, these guys are building mini empires with their own org, right? So I'm really interested in hearing his thoughts and like, how much did he build it? How much did the platform build it? How much did the community build it? So a lot of learnings that we can learn from this guy, as Kick, starts to build its own community, man.
No, I think when you think of everything that Twitch has achieved, and that's a lot, I think, a lot of those names that are a part of OTK and OTK itself really come to mind, right? I think you mentioned community, right? I think the biggest thing has been a lot of those names have helped to cultivate what an incredible community that Twitch has. I think they've been at the forefront of demonstrating what amazing content looks like, what healthy communities look like. So, I think, Twitch is incredibly lucky to have such an amazing group of people, and I'm sure OTK is lucky to have someone like TIPSOUT at the helm there leading it, because like you mentioned, it's no easy job having to steer a whole bunch of people in the same direction and keep things under control. So looking forward to this episode of Kick Talk. This is what episode 25, right?
25, man.
Amazing.
25. We're cranking them, man. It's great. And the shows keep getting better. The shows keep getting more raw, more honest, more authentic. So you never know who's going to swing by, man. So it's been awesome. But let me drag TIPSOUT in here real quick. and get this cooking, man.
TIPSOUT, how's it going?
Yo, what's up, guys?
Good morning.
Good morning.
He's West Coast. He's He's got his AI camera going on. There we go.
West
there
Coast.
it is.
Okay. What time is it for you right now? Then it must be like 6 a.m.
I'm actually in Austin right now. It's 8:44, so we're good. It's not too bad.
Oh, not too bad. My bad.
It's all good, man. How you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. No, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I think we've been trying to tee this one up for a while, right? I think this has been on the books for a bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I know we've been trying to put it together for a long time, and glad that we could sneak in here before the end of the year. Is this the last one before the end of the year for you guys?
That's it. Yeah, no, this is the final one, 25th episode. So yeah, looking forward to running up another 52 next year. So we'll keep at it. It's a hell of a lot of fun. We've got a bit of I think it's starting to develop its own sort of culture, these Kick Talks. I think it's really great. So I think, we're finishing the year on a high having you as a guest. So again, thank you so much for dropping in. Tips, I just had a few questions for you, and then I thought, either hand the floor over to you to ask about Kick, or we just go back and forth and let it flow. But yeah, if you're cool with that,
let's do it.
Hell yeah. Just I guess gaming in general, right? Obviously OTK is heavily gaming based. From what I understand, you're a gamer yourself, of course. When we think of the gaming industry and what's happening with gaming in general, right? It's changing rapidly. Like, when you grew up playing WoW, right?
Yep, playing a lot of WoW. Too much. And RuneScape.
Yeah. Oh, RuneScape as well? I didn't know that. Okay. We got a common game. But growing up playing WoW, how do you see gaming, being different for, say, your kids growing up compared to how you've kind of grown up with gaming? Because it really has changed substantially, right?
100%. That's actually a super good question. And you kind of foreshadowed it. If you guys hear like banging on my door, it's probably just my kids trying to tear my office door down. But for this next generation, man, it's so foreign to me. Like, I think probably the biggest differentiator between how we grew up and how my kids are growing up right now is just the access. Like, my parents were very much like, no video games in the house. We'll only turn the Nintendo on when like guests are over or something. We got to distract you kids from ruining our time. But right now, at such a young age, kids are being given iPads, phones, whatever technologies is at their disposal, and they're getting accustomed to it so quickly. My son turns 4 in about a month or so, and he's already like a master at the iPad. And on one hand, part of my strict upbringing was like, man, should we kind of withhold that technology, that access? But then, you look at all the other kids around them and you say, well, if they're not, developing that, swiftness with these tools, they could be falling behind. So it's like a lot of cognitive dissonance you go through as a parent this generation. But I think the biggest difference between us and them is they have so much access to it so much earlier. And just the level of adeptness they have, just like the tactile nature of like movements on touchscreens, especially, is like unparalleled. So I think for him and his sister, I think you're going to see, a lot of mobile gaming, a lot of Minecraft, anything that can be accessed on the iPad, early is what we'll be seeing out of them, I think.
I love that take on it, though. Zooming out from gaming a bit, the idea of withholding technology will end up, massively kind of disadvantaging them, opposed to, I know a lot of, parents make that choice, like, where do you kind of draw the line with technology? But, having the open mind that, hold on a second, the reality is technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And if you kind of withhold it and say, no, you're not having this, it's only going to kind of put them at a disadvantage, especially when it comes to gaming, that's for sure. But just everything in general. But no, I guess, the days of growing up on World of Warcraft, or even, RuneScape, as you mentioned, and having to kind of figure out how to use the computers and the internet from scratch, and everyone's kind of just like, first learning how to talk to each other online versus what they're going to experience. It's going to be a whole different world out there. And I guess we're going to see a a whole different generation of games probably stem from that as well, and types of content that people are going to be consuming. But I guess that's just, I guess, the nature of any industry. It's going to continue to develop out.
100%. Long gone are the days of like dial-up internet when you're playing RuneScape on the family PC in the living room, but then your mom goes to pick up the phone and then like disconnect it or whatever it is. Yeah, this crazy new generation. Like, I feel like I'm becoming like a boomer now where, it's like every older generation is like, oh, those damn kids. These days, I'm just like, God damn, these kids, bro. Like, I don't even know how it's going to turn out, like how they're going to be in 20 years from now. Who knows?
Our brains aren't wired for it, man. It's so much. It's so much information, so fast, so quick, so accessible. It's bonkers.
You just 100%. Gave me crazy memories of the phone with dial up. Yeah, I remember my sister. She figured out that she could just pick up the phone to turn my internet off, and so whenever we were having a bit of a tiff, she knew exactly how to get back at me. It was good times back then. Now we're definitely in a very, very, very different world in that sense.
Absolutely.
On the WoW front though, have you been playing much recently? Have you played the new expansion? You got any thoughts on that?
Funny enough, you just mentioned it. So I actually just reinstalled it like 2 nights ago. I played a little bit of the expansion launch, and personally, I come from the era of vanilla WoW, and I really enjoy the older version of the game, kind of like RuneScape. Enjoy the older version of RuneScape, but I will say, for what the modern game has become, this iteration of it is one of the best that I've seen in a while. There's a lot of things that I don't like about modern WoW, like the ease of loot acquisition, and things just don't feel as epic and grand as they used to, and the flying mounts, and even stuff like transmog. I'm not a big fan of it. I like how in RuneScape, when you get an item, the item you wear is like what you have, and that sort of like that power detection between players, and trying to like size somebody up before like PKing them or something. WoW's lost that over the years, but considering what it is today, and how it's been the past 10 years or so, I think it's one of the better versions of modern WoW that we've seen.
Do you think that's anything to do with, I think there's been a bit of discussion around, obviously, Chris Metzer coming back as, executive creative director or something, right? Yeah. You reckon it's something to do with that?
Potentially. It depends. I think he came back about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now.
Okay.
1.5 years ago, something like that. So it might have been, the expansion cycle might have been sort of already underway, and they might have been wrapping up development on this current X-Pac by then.
Yeah,
not wrapping
true.
up, but,
Yeah, no, 1.5 years would have been way too late to kind of have too much influence on the core mechanics, right? It would have been well and truly in development.
Yeah, I think it's probably more so like WoW has had so many fumbles over the years, and like eventually you just have so much data that it's hard to mess up. Like, if you can endure the bad years of like, all right, we're going to experiment, we're going to try new things, and we're going to A/B test, and a lot of it's going to go to shit. But if you've got billions and billions of dollars like Blizzard does, and you've got recurring subscription plus microtransaction model like they do, eventually you kind of got to get it right. Like, they've got more data than they know what to do with. So I think it's probably like just years of feedback, data, A/B testing, brute force. They finally gotten to the point where they understand what makes players tick. And, I feel like there's a lot of good things ahead for World of Warcraft, which if you asked me that like 5 years ago, I'd have been like, dude, that game is toast, bro. Like, classic or bust. But it's nice to be excited about future versions of the game these days.
You guys, like at OTK, right, have always been massive supporters and players of WoW, right? Like, I assume, but you've got contacts at Blizzard. Do you guys have like much to do at all with the feedback loop? Is there any kind of collaboration there at all, or?
I mean, definitely don't want to take credit for the devs' work, or for us, we're just like any other content creator. We chime in every once in a while. Hey, this would be cool. That would be cool. But the truth is, I mean, they're on top of it. Like, again, especially for modern WoW, like we don't have nearly as close of an ear to the ground as we do for classic. So like, I would hesitate to even suggest anything about modern WoW, because I'm like right now the noob of the noob of the noob with the system. where it's just like I don't even know where to start giving suggestions there because I'm just not as close to the game as I used to be.
Nah, fair enough. Yeah, I guess what that's Blizzard's job to very much treat every customer, every player kind of equally and take on all that feedback. But I guess I'm sure they're watching a lot of the streams and seeing where people get frustrated and probably give that very honest feedback as well. So I'm sure there's probably been some, whether it's direct or indirectly, influence on a few decisions along the way, especially when you've got such vocal players. Just on the OTK side though, what you took over as CEO in 2020, right?
Officially a little bit later. So OTK officially formed, like the actual group entity formed in 2020. I've been there obviously as a founding member since the beginning, but CEO duties more recently, about 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, and I guess OTK, the rise of it, right, was, I'm assuming, like quite phenomenal, right? Like it came at it is debatably the best, most well-known org these last sort of 5 or so years. At what point did you kind of realize, hold on a second, this thing's a real success, and we're not just going to build a traditional org, we're going to go the full country mile like you guys have done and venture off into all kinds of directions? Like, when did you kind of go, hold on, we're onto something?
That's a good question. So this is going to sound super pretentious, but I think in 2020, just to kind of set the table a little bit and the setting and stuff. As you guys know, it was sort of the beginning of COVID. We started right around the time of it was 2 major things happening in the industry. There was COVID, and then there was also sort of the apex peak of esports and the slight come down. Like, it started to come down, where I think venture capital dollars start to realize that, wait a minute, this esports thing, it's not scaling in North America the way we thought it was. So we sort of slipped in at this time of hey, we've got all these different industries can no longer advertise in traditional media or traditional sports or whatever. Let's put our money into gaming. But at the same time, we don't want to put it into esports because we tried that and it just didn't yield a return. And so what do? Well, there's this little media company that's springing out of nowhere. But I watch Asmongold, so maybe we should give them a little bit of money, or I watch Mizgif or whoever it may be. So from the get-go, to answer your question, it definitely felt like something special right away. Before we even went public with our announcement, we had already signed our first sponsorship deal. Oh, wow. Just as we were setting up, and there are rumblings in the industry, and we were working with an agency at the time, and they were able to get us a deal before launch. So it really felt special at the very beginning. It felt like we were onto something. It felt like just the timing was right. All the stars were aligning. Myself personally and some of the other guys, we had hosted different content pieces, like more upscaled produced content that we were able to sell to third parties. And that gave us kind of the skeleton or the bones for the model we wanted going forward. And it just felt right, dude. Like Asmon announcing it, I remember his announcement stream, he had 100,000 viewers. Again, all the COVID viewership was there. And I remember that first day we were at S-Fan's house, running up and down the stairs from watching the stream to going upstairs to coordinating giveaways and stuff like that. And I just remember feeling like, shit, dude, whatever happens from this point on, it feels like we hit the jackpot.
I guess what you the OTK roster, right? I guess is, in terms of the people you've got involved and how they've kind of come together and represented the organization. I think that's probably been what you guys have done best, right? Is how you picked and choose and who to work with, and then how I guess you've also managed that, right? And it kind of leads me to my next question. Obviously, dealing with a lot of people who are incredibly, influential, famous, whatever you want to call it. You've obviously dealt with a lot of strong personalities, right? And subsequently, you've seen a whole bunch of success working with these guys. I guess you've got, without having to put you on the spot here to choose any singular story, is there a certain creator, certain person from OTK that comes to mind that's been just one of those, really great stories of bringing the best out of them? Because I guess that's what an org is meant to do, is represent the creators, the streamers, the individuals, and help bring the best out of them as a broader group, right? Is there anyone you from that kind of OTK roster that stands out?
Well, I used to have hair, so there's that.
Yeah.
But I mean, and frankly, Eddie, I could ask you the same question, brother. I don't know how you do it too. I mean, when you're dealing with people that are in many ways at the top of their game and have done a lot in their space to prove that they're more than qualified to make executive decisions on content or creative direction. Really, I feel like it's my job to not so much really just kind of stay out of the way. Like, the last thing I want to do is stifle creativity, get in the way of the process of these guys that, again, in their fields, they're geniuses. Like, getting 20, 30, 40,000 viewers sitting at your PC, like, it's definitely not something that I could do. So in terms of that, I'd say probably the biggest part of the challenge is knowing when to insert myself, not insert myself. Obviously, there's certain business decisions and variables that need to be taken into account when we make content or creative decisions. So that's usually where I kind of slot in. But overall, it's really about, being the guardrails for the group, but not necessarily, being the bowling ball that takes down the pins. And in terms of like anybody in particular, I mean, everybody is very vibrant and outspoken. Let's put it that way. A lot of different opinions, but I think one of the beauties of OTK, and this is actually something that I told somebody a few years ago, I think one of the beauties of OTK when it comes to managing all the different personalities is, a lot of us have known each other for years, even prior to OTK being founded. And we all, or most of us, kind of came up in that World of Warcraft environment, like Asmin, Esfan, Miz, myself, Nick, Soda, all of these guys have a World of Warcraft background. So we're kind of we come from that same generation, that same culture. And even though, at times you have differing opinions, sometimes like starkly different, there's this baseline level of respect and camaraderie that we have where it's like, you know what? It might be a 5 or a 6 versus 1 on an issue, but we respect you. We know you. We've known you for years. You feel very strongly about this. Fuck it. Let's send it and see how it goes.
Love that. I didn't realize you guys go back even further than OTK. So, you guys have known each other far longer, from all the way back? How long?
I mean, for some of us, 8, 9. I mean, NMP and Soda, for example, they've been
decades,
decades at this point. But I mean, just for most of us, I would say like going back to early 2017 is when a lot of us met.
Yeah,
that's when Asfan originally got banned from YouTube, I believe, around that time, and he started streaming on Twitch. That's when he met Asmin and Miz and myself, and I'd say sometime in 2017 is when we all sort of like really collided. And Esfan and I hit it off. We used to run a podcast together called Classicast, and Asmin, kind of took Esfan under his wing and kind of helped him transition over to Twitch. And Miz popped up a few months later after, cameramanning for some people in the space, and just kind of happened.
I guess that's probably like, I'm going to assume one of the big reasons for why OTK has been so successful has been that initial group and the fact that it's so organically come together. It hasn't been just like, all right, we're going to go find a bunch of people, bring them together and just like try to create an org out of it. It's like, it was almost like kind of destined to be. There was that 3 years leading up to it whereby you've got this, that comradeship that you're talking about, whereby everyone sort of understands each other and how to work together. And naturally that's kind of been, I guess, the foundation on which has then led to bringing on so many other incredible creators as well.
100%. We got really lucky. Like, it's crazy. Sometimes I think back, like, man, like we can credit ourselves for things, but to be honest, dude, we got very fortunate with an incredible team, and we got even more lucky just how things just kind of slotted into place. It's weird. Like, if Esfan never got back to me after he got banned, then we probably never would have connected, and I would have never met Asmin most likely. And Miz, I can't remember when Esfan and Miz met for the first time, but if that never happened, like, who knows where we'd all be. So definitely very, very grateful and fortunate for everything.
Just on the OTK side, so obviously like things are restructuring just a little bit. Like, what does that mean for you guys and I guess the future coming into the new year and stuff? Obviously, I'm assuming you guys have huge plans and you know, are always looking towards the future. Is there anything you can kind of speak to on that front?
For sure. I mean, things are always cooking over here. I think probably the biggest takeaway from 2024 for us is the organization has grown in so many different ways beyond what we originally expected. Like when we first started, it was like, yo, bunch of content creators, let's make awesome content. Let's do cool gaming tournaments. You know, let's create an organization based on a foundation of friendship. And then like things got really serious really fast. And we saw like sponsors starting to come in. And, you know, I think the big turning point for us originally was we hosted the spelling bee in early 2021 that eventually became Schooled, which was the first kind of syndicated show that we did on Twitch. And at the time was the most successful syndicated program done on Twitch. So, you know, that model really carried us through all the way through like towards the end of 2022. But during that time, we realized that, hey, you know, sponsors are great and all, but, you know, sometimes sponsorship revenue is quite unpredictable. So why don't we go and create our own businesses, diversify our revenue, diversify our verticals so that, you know, not only can we take advantage of this awesome reach and moment that we're having right now, but also in the future, you know, we can essentially put our money to work for itself. So that's when we founded Starforge, which is our computer company. And shortly afterwards, we founded Mythic Talent, our talent agency, and, you know, most recently Mad Mushroom, which is our game publishing company. So I think, you know, when you start a lot of different businesses, especially relative close proximity to each other, you sort of like blur out a little bit and your focus goes all over the place. And I think next year, probably the biggest thing that will be focused on, no pun intended, is, you know, really targeting specific businesses and making sure that we're giving each business that we own right now the necessary resources they need to scale. So, yeah, it's just OTK like ballooned really fast, and everything we're doing ballooned really fast. So, you know, part of my job is making sure that we're allocating resources efficiently and making sure that all of our different organizations are supported.
Is it a sign of the times that OTK and off brand are kind of seeing the same tea leaves in the market and kind of expansion, contraction, like, or is off brand like it's totally dealing with a totally different set of things? Because I think off brand announced, then you guys announced that you were doing a little bit of restructuring and that there were amazing people within the market that needed to find work. I think that's the biggest thing was you guys had so much creative coming out off of these restructuring that I think that the market still calls for it. But at the same time, I'm wondering, are we seeing a trend in orgs like yours having to adapt to however YouTube's doing deals, Kick's doing deals, Twitch doing deals, things of that nature?
It's a really good question. I can't speak too much on behalf of off-brand because I'm not exactly sure what the situation is over there. But based on their public statement, I think there might be some commonalities. I think, you know, more broadly speaking, you kind of hit the nail on the head, Andrew, where like live streaming, going back again to sort of that 2020 COVID era, you know, there was a huge shift in the market at that time where, you know, and we all can probably call back to our own experiences during COVID. A lot of us probably watched a lot more of, you know, at the time it was Twitch and you know, eventually Kick as well. A lot of us probably watched a lot of live streams back then. More so than we normally would. And a big part of that is, you know, a lot of our favorite entertainment might have been shut down, or we were indoors for a lot longer period of time. And considering this is a, you know, long form type of content, you're able to consume longer streams and stuff like that. So there was this big desire in the industry, especially again with reallocated budgets, for more experiential, high production content in 2020, 2021, 2022. And I think what's happened more recently as life has gotten back to normal or quasi-normal, and, you know, dollars have been reallocated back to more traditional media or traditional sporting events, and the live streaming audience has kind of corrected or, you know, contracted a little bit to adjust for the fact that not everybody's at home anymore, you're seeing more and more organizations, media companies, esports teams, whatever it is, you're seeing more and more of those orgs sort of, I guess, readjust their budgets to align with where the dollars are being spent, but also to realign where the eyeballs are being, placed. I watched Ludwig's video talking about their situation, and one thing that he brought up that's super interesting is, he spent a lot of money, a lot of time on an event or so recently that had around 30,000 viewers or something. That's the example he gives. But then he went and started playing League of Legends with his friend, and he had like 38,000 viewers or something like that. So I think that sort of paints the picture very clearly of, audiences now, the people that are watching live streams now are really there for the personalities. They're there to watch their favorite streamer, hang out, talk to them, engage with them, etc. And, our model up through 2022, while it worked for that time, I would say probably doesn't work as well in this current state. I think, at the end of the day, there's a couple thousand people watching us right now in chat. They're here to see, you, Eddie. They're here to see you, Andrew. They're here to hang out with you guys. If we were hosting some game show, I think, some people would appreciate it. But at the end of the day, I think people watch live streams because they want to connect with somebody. Whereas a couple of years ago, there was also a big desire to see produced content because they weren't seeing it anywhere else.
That's a super interesting take, because I guess, being able to help facilitate these incredible productions, there's been so many examples where it's gone amazing, right? But I guess that's a big part of what live streaming is about, right? And I guess that's what people really enjoy, is that sort of very raw, authentic way. Like, your example, Ludwig just playing League of Legends with his friend. That I guess that's kind of what people tune into, whether it's Twitch, YouTube, or Kick, or whatever platform, is that they are looking for that genre of content that is relatively unproduced. But then again, I guess, it's about figuring out what the trend is at the time, right? Because I do remember when people were first starting to do produced events, and they were going crazy, right? Like, even right now, we're seeing this in Latin America, right? Like, I think they're just starting to do some of these huge produced events and stuff, and they're getting like, we just had like West Cole pull like 1.5 million viewers for a boxing event. Oof. And, some other productions as well that are going ahead. Like, they're loving it, right? I almost see them going through that same sort of phase that the English speaking market saw during that kind of COVID era, whereby everyone's like going, whoa, this is amazing. We want to tune in and see, and they're, breaking records. But, maybe as time goes on, people end up reverting back to the idea of just wanting authentic live content. Maybe that's sort of the trend we're seeing. I guess, like you said, that's what you guys do. You have to follow the trends, follow the eyeballs, follow the revenue, right? And if that's a changing landscape, then that means shifting focus. But I guess what the thing is, you guys have so many things going on. When you say shift focus, that could mean a lot of stuff. And I guess that's what I really admire with what OTK does, is understanding that, hey, look, you've got this you've got these amazing names. Like, how can we all work together to branch out into so many different areas? Because there is so much opportunity. Live streaming is so powerful. Having, whether it's Asmongold with 100,000 viewers, or Mizkif with, how many ever tens of thousands he's got on, like, that is a huge audience, and how you can leverage that to do so many other incredible things, whether it's from producing games to building computers. You can build legitimate businesses off that can be worth, a lot of substantial money, right? And I think, having an organization together to help, realize those opportunities and go after them is amazing. And, been watching from the sidelines what you guys have been doing on that front. And I think, really excited to see like how you kind of pivot and change, and, like you said, continue to focus on what makes the most sense going into the landscape and the environment that we're currently in right now, which is, again, it's a great environment. People are still tuning into live streaming. It's great. I guess it's just, changing and adapting to that different, landscape of what people are looking to consume.
Absolutely.
Hey, Eddie.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I dig in real quick?
Oh, of course.
Just dig it. I just because I'm real curious. Because here's the thing: I've had the opportunity of seeing all these guys in a room at one time. All right, and the way that they kind of operate, right? And I'm really just curious. when Kick is mentioned in the room with all you guys, with all these strong opinions, right? And a lot of these opinions of, I think free speech gets thrown around a lot. I think, people saying, I think streamers are growing up, man. I think TOSs have to be a lot more flexible. And I'm prefacing this with a lot of things with like your opinion of Kick 2 years ago, as opposed to your opinion of Kick now as live streaming matures. Has the sentiment changed within that boardroom around those creators?
Very interesting question. So I'll say, again, I can only speak on behalf of myself. I'll say myself personally, I mean, absolutely. I'm not going to lie. When Kick first started, it's like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here, but it's like, if you guys know like Evel Knievel and like, old stuntman tricks and stuff like that, like imagine somebody on like a BMX bike or something trying to like jump a canyon or something on their bike, right? And, you see the first guy go down the ramp and he goes for it and he just like crashes into a canyon. And then you see the next guy attempt it and he just like crashes into the canyon. And then you see the third guy and he's got a green helmet on with like a K on it. And you're just like, I don't know, man, that's a tough one, dude. We've seen this before. But the person happens to be, Evel Knievel, or in this case, Eddie, Andrew, and the rest of your guys' team. And, at the time when we had first talked, a few years ago, you guys were still right at the base, right? It was like Kick had just come out. And so, to kind of, continue that analogy, it's like you guys just started going down the hill, ready to hit the ramp. And there was definitely, at least for me personally, it was like, man, I don't know. Like, that's a very big canyon to leap. Microsoft tried it, didn't work. Others have tried it, didn't work. Can these guys do it? And I think, talking about creator-led businesses a little bit earlier, you guys had something that none of those other businesses had, is you had this extra layer of insight from content creators in the space. But then also you guys, like, you lived it. Like, Eddie, you've been playing RuneScape for God knows how long. You're super low to the ground with the community. You watch live streams, all that stuff. So that extra layer of like just knowledge and familiarity with the culture, it helped you guys. It was almost like a little turbo at the end of your bike that shot you over the canyon. So as far as my opinion on Kick today, I mean, you guys have grown. I just checked before the stream started. From December to December, over 250% average viewership. I mean, for any startup, you guys have been incorporated for like, 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that, if that. I can't even remember at this point, maybe less. But for you guys to experience that kind of growth, still be around, do it for cheaper than the rest, and still growing, like, I mean, mazel tov. I don't know what else to say. Like, that's incredible. Like, I'll say again, there were definitely early conversations where I'm just like, dude, will these guys last a year? Like, will they last a couple of years? And now it's like, sky's the limit, really, is the way I see it.
That's the way you explain that. I love that. I guess, from everyone from the outside, it's exactly what they were thinking, right? I guess the stage was set with, whether it was Microsoft, whether it was Facebook, whether it was the tens, if not hundreds of other platforms which had tried this, and you guys, seeing another one come along was just, hey, look, this is another one of those attempts which will, maybe fade out. And I guess every week, every month, now coming up to years, that the Kick sticks around and continues to keep on giving this a red hot crack. I guess it changes the landscape, right? It starts to change the way that it's viewed, because I guess it's easy to kind of build a platform and then be like, hey guys, come over here. It's going to be better, without realizing that, for big creators, especially the people on OTK or any other large organization, or just large streamers in general, switching platform is like switching like jobs, right? It's like switching everything. It's like the biggest change you could possibly make. Is the scariest change. It's the riskiest change. It's by far the any change which could have the largest adverse effect. So, putting your trust in a brand new platform is kind of insane if you think about it. The downside is huge. Of course, there's upside to it, but the downside is so massive. So being able to take that shot is scary. And I guess to begin with, everyone just goes, "Hold on, these guys are mad. They're entering this industry that everyone talks about as being not profitable, all this kind of stuff, and it's shrouded in controversy." And you start thinking, "Hold on." These guys are just going to end up in the canyon. But I'm super glad to hear that you almost deem it as if we've crossed that canyon. I beg to say that we're still kind of mid-flight. Like, I like to think the trajectory is looking real good, and that gap's looking scary and scarier. But we still certainly have some ways to go. But no, it's been an incredible journey, right? And I think we've certainly had our rocky moments. We've learned a hell of a lot, I guess. Going ahead and trying to cross that canyon without any you don't kind of get any trial attempts, right? You don't get any practice runs. You kind of just got to hit the ground running and figure it out on the spot, which has been an amazing experience. I think it's been such a learning curve for everyone involved, no matter what sort of part they've played in this. And there's no industry like live streaming. There really is. There's no industry quite like it when it comes to whether it's the drama, the controversy, the everything associated with it. It's just like it's something else in terms of how involved you have to be. And for us, I guess that's what makes it so exciting, and why it's something we want to keep pursuing, and why we want to keep on trying to give this industry a run for its money, in a sense. So, but yeah, no, I think the last year alone is massive growth. I think very heavily in some markets, like Spanish speaking markets, all throughout Latin America for that matter. English market too has such a solid community, starting to really build up. We're starting to see our own sort of homegrown streamers that have kind of found their way from Kick from the beginning to the end, and that's the most amazing thing to see. But yeah, I think this next year though, especially is going to be really interesting for us. I think we've got some, I think from our side we've had to really close a gap on the tech side, and that's always been the thing I always keep talking about the most. And I think we're just about to kind of get a few things through the door, which will hopefully start to really make sure that we're competitive on that bare basic front in terms of what people expect from a streaming platform. And I guess from that point onwards, hopefully, like you said, sky's truly the limit in that sense.
For sure. I will say too, I want to call this out because, I don't see this a lot on Twitch. You guys have a lot of Arabic speakers on the platform, which is awesome to see. My background is Syrian. So like right before this call, as we were like queuing up and stuff, I went into Maher Ko's chat. And I just, it's crazy to see like Arabic speakers with like 15, 20K views, dude. That's awesome, man. Like I didn't even know these streams existed. So that's super cool.
You got to watch Maher stream. He's amazing. He's great. He's running that subathon right now. It's he's doing. I don't speak a word of Arabic, unfortunately, but I've watched about 2 or 3 hours of that subathon thus far. But that's the thing, right? I think there's just so many communities out there in live streaming. Which I think, we originally kind of went very heavy on the English speaking market, thinking, hey, look, we know exactly like what the problems are. We're going to help you guys figure them out. Little did we know that the English market actually had it really good. They were looked after real well. It was the other markets like Arabic, Spanish speaking, Turkish speaking, those markets
Oceania.
They've got it rough, man. Like they've got it real rough. Like we thought, obviously everyone loves to complain, right? And we get it now. Streamers are always going to have something that they're not quite 100% happy with. And at the time we thought, Twitch must be doing a terrible job because we're working with these guys and they seem unhappy or whatever. But God, the English speaking market have it so easy compared to these other markets. So we've really heavily invested in looking out for them and trying our best to, whether it's just simply giving them a connection in terms of a support function, or, whether it's, making sure that, people like Mahurko are able to go ahead and pull together this subathon with the right funding, with the right, resources. But yeah, the Arabic community, big shout out to them. I think that was one of the first communities to fully move over the Kick and have been a backbone for a lot of our viewership for a while now, which has been amazing.
That's awesome, man. That's super cool.
Hey, I just want to give a heads up. We got about 15 or 20 more minutes with tips, just an hour, right? And man, you're doing an amazing job with that kid. I totally empathize, man. I've got a 19-year-old now and a 10-year-old, but I totally get it, man. So amazing focus for sure. But yeah, man, listen, if you got any heaters for us, man, nothing's off the table. Would love to have you pick our, Eddie's brain for sure.
100%. I mean, it's awesome to hear your guys' commitment to quality and, continuing to hear the artisan, refine their craft, and you guys consider yourself still kind of in the air looking to, get to the other side of the canyon. What are your guys' goals long term? Like for you, what defines success? What defines touchdown on the other side of the canyon? What do you guys think, Kick still needs to improve on, or what do you guys want it to be in order to kind of check that mission accomplished box?
Yeah, so I guess if you had asked us when we first launched Kick, right, it was a very simple response. It's like, we want to beat Twitch, right? Like that was the boring sort of way of looking at it. We wanted to win the market. We still want to, right? That's certainly up there. But I think it's more so now about trying to help understand what live streaming can become, right? I think live streaming and the potential that it has truly been untapped. Like I don't believe that, I believe that the whole concept around live streaming, being able to watch something in real time, there's no, major scripting involved. The aspect of having a chat, a community live there watching with you, this is just such a perfect recipe to make absolutely all content types better, right? Like, you could be doing anything. You could be watching and consuming any type of content. If you've got it with a live streamer live, like you can make it so much better, right? I think all aspects of life, you can take the fundamentals of live streaming and stream it live, and it makes it better, right? The opportunities out there for live streaming, I still think are just completely untapped, whether that's been because of, harsh moderation, whether that's been because of lack of funding, whether that's been because of, lack of visibility. I just feel like what live streaming has to offer is just so much more than what we're currently seeing. Obviously, gaming has been incredibly successful and will continue to be successful. Esports has been huge for live streaming. But I think that can expand further, right? Whether that's into more so traditional sports, whether that's into, more of the IRL content, whether that's more into the just chatting, whether that's into more sort of, produced content, like you mentioned, finding that balance of what works. I just think that live streaming in general and this world can certainly go so much further, right? Like in 2020, when you guys first came together, right? I don't think many people outside of live streaming knew who the top 5 live streamers were, right? Like it was kind of this smaller niche. I think that's changing now, right? Like we're seeing people like, whether it's, I think Kai is a great example, right? He's kind of gone mainstream now. Like streaming.
It's like on McDonald's commercials and shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, exactly, right? I think when you see that, you realize, hold on a second, this industry has so much more potential. It really does. And if there's any way that we can help shape that, if there's any way we can help be involved with that, I think that's our job. Our job here is to make sure that we're here supporting the creators, supporting them as they try to, push the boundaries and make the most incredible content that can penetrate the mainstream culture. That truly is what I'd define success as. And I think it's possible. I think, I don't, again, I have so much respect for Twitch, right? What they've built has been amazing, but I feel like Twitch is this small little, arm of Amazon nowadays, right? And I don't think they look at live streaming as the future of entertainment in the same way that Kick does. Kick, we truly believe that what live streaming can do and what can be achieved with it is far from its peak. And I always say the better days of live streaming are yet to come, right? And I think if we can help to be on the forefront and at least just a part of that story of how live streaming sort of penetrates mainstream culture, then hey, look, that would be a huge, huge success in my books. With that said, are we anywhere close to achieving that? I think we're a long way off. But I think with the right tools, with the right team, with the right technology, with the right outlook, with the right support, I think we can certainly, help to push things in that direction. Because I think the underlying thesis here is that live streaming is really entertaining.
Yep. No, that's a really good point. And I agree with you. Like, if you had asked me, like, again, like about a year or so ago, maybe before that, time's like going so quickly now. Definitely, like, right as COVID was starting to wane, you definitely saw a bit of a correction in like live streaming numbers. But then Kai comes along, starts to blow, the lid off the can. And here we are, like, regularly seeing streams. You mentioned, I think it was West Call, 1.5 million. Kai bringing Kevin Hart on the stream, stuff like that. I definitely still think there's a huge market for like major cultural events happening in the live streaming domain. And I think as teams get a little bit more savvy as to like how to generate that level of buzz without spending, millions and millions of dollars putting on events, at least in North America, I think you're going to continue to see that growth. Because one thing we've noticed is that once people, if you think about it like the traditional marketing funnel, top of funnel is things like probably short form content, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, etc. Then you got like mid form VOD, and then you go down to live streaming. While live streaming is theoretically, maybe a smaller market overall, once people get into it, it's very hard to like get out of it. Like, you kind of stay. Like, once you find a content creator that you really like, that you do want to hop in, their chats, engage with, etc., like, you kind of stay there. I've been watching Soda Poppin' since 2000 and I don't know, 13, 14, maybe something like that. Like, I still watch his streams occasionally, right? Open them up on the second monitor while I'm working. So I think that, probably one of the biggest challenges for live streaming right now is, again, just like your typical ARC, acquisition, retention, conversion. Like, the acquisition part is probably the hardest part. But once you can get people in the door, I don't think they leave very often.
I think that's the most incredible aspect of live streaming, is that attention, being able to hold someone's attention, not just for the hours and hours of their live streaming, but for the years, right? You end up creating this almost bond with the live streamer, right? No different to the same way people end up watching TV series and really getting to know the characters. That, I think that's the beauty of live streaming to that extent, is that it can just, once you do have people, as you said, sort of acquired through the door, they stick around and you only build on that relationship, right? As you continue to make great content and continue to be entertaining, the influence and that connection with the audience only grows and grows and grows and grows. And it's more authentic and more real than anything else. Obviously there people, end up creating a connection to whether it's a YouTuber, right? But I don't think that's quite the same as a live streamer. When you're live streaming, when you're in the moment, when you're living all those moments in real time alongside them, I think that's just a different form of connection. I think we see that in so many other key performance indicators around like what makes live streaming special. I'm sure you do too, in terms of sort of operating, all these other arms of OTK. But yeah, for that very reason, right? For that very reason, I think it's one of the huge, huge differentiators for the industry and what live streaming can truly achieve on the back of.
100%. Let's see. I know we don't have too much time left, so let me think about another question here. I guess this one might be a little bit too in the weeds, but I'm really curious your thoughts about this. So I'd say about 2 or 3 months ago, I was having a conversation with a bunch of creators IRL, and we were talking about like the future, and some of them hadn't really brushed up too much on their short form game, and so we were talking about like TikTok and YouTube Shorts and stuff. And Kick came up in the conversation, live streaming in general, Kick, different platforms and stuff. And I asked a couple of these guys, I was like, hey, out of curiosity, like, why do you stream on Twitch? Like, why don't you stream on YouTube? Why don't you stream on Kick, Rumble, any of these other platforms? Like, why do you specifically stream on Twitch? And I was somewhat surprised to hear that, I think obviously a big part of that calculus for a lot of people, especially those that have been streaming on one platform for a long time already, is, hey, moving my communities, it's a little bit risky. I don't want to lose viewers. I don't want to move my community to another platform. But a different sort of conversation sprouted up about like monetization and, being able to make money specifically off of things like ad revenue, sponsorship, stuff like that. I think over the years, Twitch has gotten it feels like they've gotten better at encouraging people to run ads, which isn't necessarily a great thing for the viewer experience, but for the streamers, I feel like they're making a lot more money now as a result. How do you guys think about how to equip creators on Kick with more a bigger ability or a bigger arsenal of tools to monetize their platform here? Because it's just something that was brought up in conversation. And I think, the 95-5 split thing is huge. Obviously, that's like a complete game changer. But I think, ad revenue has increased so much at Twitch as well that how do you give creators more opportunities to make money, to make that transition to Kick easier for them, considering the potential risks that they feel like they face?
Yeah, so I think Twitch these last 24 months, maybe more specifically these last 12 months have you can tell their strategy has changed, right? And I think they've done an amazing job, and I think this has been a really great call by them. They've obviously moved away from minimum guarantees or all those kind of deals that they were doing for so long, right? And I guess the idea behind those was that, okay, we'll give people these deals and then we'll make it back off ad revenue and, give a very small piece of that ad revenue back to the creator and not really incentivize them. But I guess what they ended up doing now is they've changed that tune and they're like, okay, we're not giving anyone flat deals anymore, but here's a really generous split of our ads and you can run as many of them as you want, right? And obviously it's doing really, really well, right? I think people are making a lot of money there. I think it's also incentivizing people for all the right reasons. I think previously you had these big multi-million-dollar contracts going out and then it wasn't really incentivizing people to make the best content out there. So naturally, I think this switch that Twitch has done to being more so based around, hold on a second, let's not give people any guaranteed money, but let's, put together this kind of revenue sharing concept and really try to push people to not only make engaging content that attracts more viewers, but also get them to run more ads. It's really smart, right? It really is. I think it's how they probably should have been doing it the whole time, right? And I'm sure they're probably going to start looking towards profitability that they've been talking about for a long, long time now. How can Kick compete with that? I think honestly, competing with that will not be that difficult at all, right? I think, advertising is very much a solved problem nowadays. We've been looking very heavily into it. As long as you do have the inventory, you can solve for it. It's very delicate with user generated content, right? It is incredibly delicate on that front, and how we can ensure that we're able to be competitive on the unit economics of the advertising game. With someone like Twitch that, again, has done such an amazing job at creating a brand friendly and a safe environment for advertisers is going to be hard. But I think that's where you have to zoom out a little bit. I think that the whole revenue perspective of only using sort of display ads, pre-rolls, all that, I think is a little bit two-dimensional. I think, you would know this, right? A lot of the power of live streaming doesn't come through that form of advertising. It comes through so many other different avenues. And I think, Kick is very open to exploring as many different revenue streams as possible and helping creators to realize those. The same way OTK helps all your members to realize all these other opportunities for revenue driving. I think, Kick's big difference here is that we will help all the other streamers to go down those avenues too. Because I think, whilst ads are very, very great for the very basic unit economics, right? For minutes watched, you've got, a certain sort of return on investment, right? You've got a fixed revenue on every minute that someone streams. It's great for the bare bones economics, but I think you can overlay so many other facets of whether it's marketing or sponsorships or integrations into that to really boost those earnings. And I think Kick can be a really great partner in that. And I think we're already sort of, slightly trialing a few sort of ways around that. But I think, we want to go a step further, right? We want to go, we want to allow people the opportunity to obviously, dive deep into that ad revenue splitting concept. I think that's really strong. It's really powerful. They're doing a great job there. But I think that's just the surface, right? I think that's purely the surface of how you can monetize your live streams. And if we're able to help people achieve that at scale, I think will be the key problem that we're looking to solve. And I think we can. We've got some ideas out there. Again, we don't want to put the carriage before the horse. We need to grow the platform, grow the community, grow the viewer base. And then once we're in a really good position, that's the problem that we really want to tackle and do really well at, because that will be, whoever solves that problem the best will win the market. It is the backbone. It is the fundamentals of what drives live streaming. And I think being ready to solve that problem in a unique way, looking at the problem different. You mentioned before a little bit around our experience being very hands-on with the industry. I like to think that's going to be hopefully a big point of differentiation when we give creators those tools to monetize their channels in the most efficient way possible.
Absolutely. No, that's super cool to hear, because I agree with you. Like, problem with pre-roll ads is they freaking suck. Not even just pre-rolls, like mid-roll ads. Like, imagine during this conversation if you had like 10 ads playing right now, all of a sudden, like mid-sentence.
Just drop a skippable. Just drop a skippable option, man. Like, it's
100%. And I think
but we totally hear you on your note, which is a lot of creators aren't coming over because they want that ad revenue. You know what I'm saying? They want that or some sort of line item that competes with that. And we're also trying to tweak KCIP to kind of match that, so the creator is actually the commercial.
That's sick. I would love to, off stream sometime, if you guys have some time, talk about this a little bit more, because there's someone I would love to introduce you guys to, but also just talking about this and some ideas that I know I've thought of over the years, but maybe you guys might be receptive to them or something like that, or they might spawn some other ideas. So would love to catch up sometime, talk about this, because I think ultimately, like you said, whoever solved this is going to win the long term. But also, I think we talk about competition in the live streaming space. I think more and more, even sort of the wider funnel platforms like YouTube have gotten so much better at monetization that, I've got streamers that I know that are like, I want to spend more time building my YouTube audience, because that's helping me grow my overall reach and it's helping me monetize as well. So yeah, I would love to catch up sometime and deep dive this with you guys. Yeah,
no, definitely. I think, even kind of hearing or following sort of your story and how you've kind of built out OTK, I can see how you're thinking about the same sort of problems that we're thinking about, right? I think there's a lot of overlap between the way that orgs look at monetization and how platforms do. At the end of the day, a platform, it's just really a group of content creators, right? Whether it's a small group of large content creators or a large group of mixed size creators, we're all kind of out there to solve the same problem. How do we go about this industry in the most logical way? How do we take advantage of these situations? And I'm sure you've been thinking about a lot of the same sort of solutions as us in different forms. So I reckon we've got to make that happen. Would love to hear what you've got some advice on that front, at least would be incredible.
Heck yeah, dude. This was awesome, by the way, guys. Like, thank you so much for having me on. I know you guys got a bunch of stuff to get to, and I just want to say I've been watching chat almost the whole time. You guys crack me the hell up. I've been trying to keep a straight face the whole stream, dude. There was a comment I read like 5 minutes ago, bro. Like, you got to me, dude. That's all I'm gonna say. But no, I would love to, Eddie, and again, like, thanks for having me on, guys. And if you guys ever just want to talk about the industry, shoot the shit, I'm happy to hop on or sync up, whatever you guys want.
Yeah, I feel like we just scraped the surface, man. I feel like we should book another one of these in the future, but you will definitely be hearing from us, man, for sure.
Heck yeah, dude, for sure.
Well, I'm super glad we finally got to make this happen, and really appreciate you coming on. But yeah, let's line up that conversation, even if for early this coming week or something, I guess would be amazing. So. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
See ya. Bye. That was epic.
All right, that was cool. Great.
We got that across the line. Yeah, I think we've been trying to work with TIPSOUT on that for I think like 2, 3, 4 months. But I think OTK. I think that the whole concept around like how OTK operates versus like how a platform operates, like the synergies there. Incredible, right? I think there's so much, commonality between both the platform and an organization in terms of struggles, in terms of, how to best, approach these problems. So, and obviously I think, what OTK has done, Despite the fact they're all on Twitch, which is cool, they've done such an amazing job, right? I think that there's no the growth and how they've kind of represented the platform as well. I think they certainly changed the game for what an organization should look like.
Yeah, for sure. He's hitting me up on Discord saying thank you. And listen, man, we'll reach out to him ASAP because I think it's just good to have, people in the industry to just, bounce ideas off of and such. And here's the other thing, man. My Discord's lighting up, and I think we're gonna have someone join us, man. Out of the blue. Let me give him a role real quick. Eddie, you cool with us bringing in?
Yeah, I've got heaps of time.
All right, cool. But yeah, man, real quick, he should have access. Let me see. Guys, we got a guest dropping by. Give me 1 second. There we go. We got a guest dropping by. He should be sweet. Let me drag him in.
Oh, lost.
Never a dull moment.
Discord's always a fun one to get to work.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got him.
Sneeko, how you doing?
Good. What's up, guys?
Oh shit! There he is. in full character.
Full character, man.
Glad to be back. It's my first time on Kick in a long time.
It's been a while,
yeah,
right?
Man, it's been like
a minute. 4 weeks or so.
It's been a little bit over 4 weeks, so I'm glad to be talking to you guys. I'll take it off for this conversation.
Hey man, I'm loving the suit and the attire. You're looking sharp.
So much.
Really sharp.
It's a whole aesthetic change. I got my apartment in New York. I've been honed in here for about a month. But yeah, are you in Australia, Santa Maria? Where are you?
No, man, I'm in the States, man. I'm in the States. I'm one of the few folks in the States, but I'm going to be heading out to Australia in about 3 weeks. So I go out there maybe like 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh, okay. Because your background is very like Texas.
Very Texas, right? I'll take that, man. I'll take that. Hey, no, the look is super clean, man. Super clean.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's been good doing Project X. I've still been keeping up with Kick pretty closely. Been watching a lot of the streams, but it's been good to take a break from streaming for quite some time and focus on this stuff.
The Project X stuff is because that was just planned out sort of 3-4 weeks ago, right? It was it wasn't on the cards like a month ago, was it?
No, it was spur of the moment. So, I mean, you all know that we took a break from streaming. It was like a group decision. And then actually, coincidentally, I'm like, I just kind of need a break. It had nothing really to do with the whole boycott or whatever. I just wanted to take a step back from streaming. And then I was home for Thanksgiving. And I just decided I'm going to move back home. So I moved to New York with only a backpack. So I had my assistant get some of my clothes from Miami. I haven't been back to my apartment since then. Just like I have my streaming set up now, a cam link and everything, just because he got it. But I've been just here off a whim for over a month now, or about a month.
Man, it's completely changed. Like I think the amount of messages or the amount of comments I see around sort of Project X lately has been awesome, and been kind of keeping up with the whole. I guess what the big concept behind it is kind of going back to the grassroots, right? Really going back to like what is content creation about, and sort of really trying to what Sneeko was as a brand, sort of 4, 5, 6 years ago even, and sort of revisiting and just like taking a fresh new outlook on the whole industry, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love streaming. Streaming is a huge passion of mine, and in some ways, I think I'm equally a streamer as I am a video creator. But I think streaming got really saturated for me, and I'm sure a lot of other streamers can relate. It became too business oriented and too much into clicks and clip farming culture really took over streaming as well for me. Nah, everything I would say, I was hyper aware that it was going to be, at risk to be clipped on X or on TikTok, or there could be some negative PR, or someone's going to go back and forth here. You call out this streamer, he calls out you. There's all this fake beef. So I just wanted to get back to the roots of why I started this in the first place. And I think I found it pretty quickly. So when I do return to streaming, and I am keen to, I think that I refound the passion, and, it became fun again. For a while, it's just like, especially with all the censorship, streaming just became a chore.
Yeah, no, well, I guess what you've seen your fair share of censorship these last, like, what, 3 years, right? And the fact that despite that and everything that happens, like even watching, any of your recent videos, you don't realize how many people obviously recognize you, right? You're just walking around New York and you've got like 15, 20, 30 people coming up to you in the space of like a day of filming or something, right? And that's on the top of all the censorship that's taken place these last, like, however many months or years, right? And the fact that despite all that, just managing to stay so on top of everything and fight back, it's you've got a pretty unique experience. Streaming's stressful as it is. Content creation in general is like a pretty tough, and it's a pretty hard industry. Let alone when you've got all these other factors involved, where you're kind of like you really are paddling upstream essentially. Like you've taken one of the more difficult parts, and you're still out there absolutely fucking crushing it, right? And completely front of mind for so many people. It's incredible to see.
I mean, that is a major goal with Project X. Those interactions are just the ones that I can turn my camera on in time, because you have to flip it open, press record. And for a while, I was kind of apprehensive to even come back to New York City, because it's a very traditionally liberal place. And, I've been involved in this world for so long that they call the red pill and, right-wing politics. And I'm like, would it even be safe for me to come back here? I actually thought that for 2 years in Miami. That was a major reason why I moved there, because, the gun laws are really relaxed. Anybody can get a gun. I wouldn't even take out the trash without having a gun on me. But in New York, like, now that I've been back here, I have security, but I can walk around freely. And I really didn't know that was possible beforehand. All the people that would assume that that there's all this division and that there's so much hate, I think I'm showing a good example of, like, that it's not as bad as it seems on the internet. So I am trying to destroy that divide that was created in the past several years. I think a lot of it became more divisive after COVID. So I want to show that we're a lot more similar than we think. And I'm trying to do like anti-brain rot, not brain rot. I want to destroy that clip farming division that's been created, and by and large by streaming. So I want to,
what I'm really impressed with, man, is your turnaround time on this stuff. Like your like, for example, listen, Eddie, this guy's got clips of Aiden and Drake on a topic about like having fake friends in the industry, right? Like navigating those waters, right? And that turnaround time was crazy fast. The other thing is there was this horrible experience with this lady that got put on fire in New York City subways, right? And Sneeko, like, he didn't just like do react content to it. He didn't like retweet something and like rage bait, right? He went at this at like a different angle, like bystander like syndrome, right? Which is like how social media has kind of desensitized us to kind of just like be so, dude, how many times have you scrolled through your Twitter and seen someone's head get blown off, or some dog mangle a cat, or some horrific thing that you've seen? And I think that Sneeko did a really good job of touching on a lot of the things that kind of plague us within social media, and then tying it to like real world situations. So I don't mean to gas him up so much, but what he's doing is like thought provoking, right? And I'm really wanting to give people a sense of how he's rebranding his stuff, man. And I'll kick it over to Sneeko to weigh in on if any of that's bullshit or if I'm hitting the nail on the head, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because the reason I wanted to do this again is because like streaming doesn't really incentivize you to approach these topics from a human angle. When I'm on doing man on the street videos in New York, and look in the past months as I moved back here, I think there's 3 major events that are very New York. Even though some of them are negative, obviously the woman who was set on fire. I went to the candlelight vigil there in Coney Island. You have Luigi Mangione, the guy who shot the CEO in Midtown Manhattan. And you have the Daniel Penny situation where he choked out a man on the subway. Those are like 3 major cultural events that took place here in just a month, and that a lot of people discuss and talk about it, I think, define how we see each other. And instead of just like rage baiting it, like I could go on a rant about illegal immigration or, races shouldn't mix or mental health crisis or this stuff. But I think it's more crucial right now to approach it from a humanistic angle. So like, if I can go and speak to people that are Luigi Mangione supporters, like face on, like they're holding signs, or I can go to the candlelight vigil, or I can interact with people who take the train 5-6 times a day and have to actually think about something like what happened to Daniel Penny and the man that he choked out. If that actually applies to life, I think that's you could approach that from a realistic angle with video. So it's helped me a lot. And I think part of the reason I'm in this stream right now is because my PR it's definitely taken an upswing in a month. I think people see what I'm really about. I think that a lot of people, if they just read headlines or clickbait titles or all this, they would think that I'm a terrible, toxic, misogynistic, racist, whatever they want to say. But now they're seeing what I'm really about and what I'm trying to do. Because, even though I've been doing these videos pretty recently, I named my community Love Speech about 1.5 years ago to show like, we love everybody. We don't believe in hate speech, even though I get banned on platforms. They try to insist that I'm a hateful person. We love everyone. And so now I think people are really starting to see that. I think there's one instance where a Jewish guy approached me and he started like cursing and yelling at me. And I talked to him and he realized that I didn't actually hate him. And then we ended up hugging it out. And I think that was one of my favorite moments. Actually, that is my favorite moment so far of that, is because that's the perfect scenario that separates social media from real life. He basically tweeted at me, he sees me and he yells at me. And then I'm like, well, why? And then we talk it out, like we come closer, and then he explains his point, I explain my point of view, and he's like, you know what, I got it all wrong. And he apologized, and then we hug it out. And then I give him props for even having, the balls to have that conversation. Social media does not encourage that. You're not supposed to say there's no way to hug it out over Twitter. You just say fuck, F you, and then go about your day.
That what you just described as a sign of a weakness in social media. Being civil is sometimes perceived as a form of weakness.
Yeah, and then they say you're a sellout, you're a shill. And what I hated so much about streaming is that people would always say you're selling out to this organization and this government, and it's like the people that always push that narrative never even have profile pictures. They're faceless accounts with an anime picture, and they're saying you're a Zionist shill or whatever. Like, you're afraid of your face.
5 followers.
5 followers. Like they were saying that we're gonna like save our country and topple this government. You have acne. Like you don't even know how to conquer the pimples on your face. How are you going to conquer a government? And these people will make you think like, well, should I be talking about this? Should I be weighing in on this? Should I be pushing this narrative? And it's just it's too neurotic. It's too neurotic to be genuine all the time. So breaks are necessary, and I've definitely refound my purpose.
I think on that. Going back just a second there, sort of, with the state of where live streaming's at and all like the clip sort of farming and this whole idea around getting people's reactions and not really looking at it from that kind of human element, but more so looking at it from like, how do we stir a conversation or get the most clicks or whatever it looks like. I think that's probably one of the most refreshing things, and why I think Project X stands out to me at least. So I'm going through my Twitter feed, right? And like, I'm like, it's all these clips and quite sort of dramatic situations that are fully taken out of context or just a whole bunch of brain rot, for lack of a better word. And then you've got Project X come through, right? And, Sneaker, you're traditionally quite well known for being in a lot of these viral clips, right? I think you were one of the most viral people on the internet for a good portion of time, right? When clipping got real big and throughout TikTok and everything, right? And now you're seeing these like 15-minute length videos that are just completely taken the opposite turn. And, you know, even today, right, I watched your video and I kind of came out of it like feeling happier, right? Instead of just feeling more sort of miserable about the situation, whether that be, you know, like you said, debating the immigration policy or debating this or trying to topple governments, you know, just looking at it from that human element, right, I think is such a healthier way of looking at content creation. I think it is a legitimate problem with live streaming at this moment and you know, just broader content creation in general right now, is that people are almost forced. Like if you don't adapt to that, you are at relative sort of disadvantage. So, you know, the fact that you're kind of going out there and showing the people, hold on a second, you can, you know, go against the grain. You don't have to go and create these shock moments. You don't have to say things that are going to end up attracting all these opinions and getting people riled up. It can just be about going about what you love doing and doing it well. And I think it's gaining traction. I'm sure you're going to continue to prove this point even further.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, that's the streamer's biggest fear. Nobody will admit it, but the streamer's biggest fear is when someone in the chat says you fell off and that they might be right. So you have to weigh out in these situations and stay relevant and rage bait to an extent so that you can be part of the noise. And so you can stay not falling off and constantly relevant. And it's kind of, it's not the correct way to approach content or even to view life. And I mean, that's why I started on Kick. Like, I mean, that's what Project X is about. Project X is like, I'm banned on YouTube. So, okay, what do I have? I have X. This is a platform with video sharing. Obviously, the monetization is not as good yet, but I want to pioneer that in 2025 with the videos that I'm doing. I want to show people that they don't need to, just because YouTube has, you know, a monopoly on MP4 files doesn't mean that that's the only place you can go. Same thing with Twitch. Twitch is like known as the place for streaming, but okay, well, we can make Kick. If you're going to ban people, if you're not going to allow gambling, if you're not going to allow us to say this, then we're going to make our own website and we're going to compete with you. So I was banned on Twitch, and that was the same reason I started on Kick. So I like to show that there's an alternative option.
When it comes to live streaming, you know, conscious you're trying to, you know, taking a break right now and all that, but you know, how do you see platforms doing better? How do you see the live streaming sort of space? Not so much healing, right? But trying to move away from this kind of clip farming, this sort of mentality that's currently had. Obviously, it'll always exist, right? It's always going to exist, and it's going to continue down this path. But you know, how do you see things getting better? What would you want to see from live streaming in general? To make it more enticing to return?
I mean, it always goes through ups and downs. And I think right now, I'm not sure, maybe people in the chat can see, I want to see what they think, but I thought it became very oversaturated. Like the reason that streaming was good in the first place was that it was very genuine. I think like the Aiden Ross example where he was in LA and he had the green messy curtain and his bed was here. And then like you just have like rappers and celebrities come in this kid's room. It's like, it just felt like a dude who was like finished playing COD and he sparked up a stream. There was something very genuine. And then there's so much money became involved, so many sponsorships and all this political, and then it became robotic and it lost some of that essence. But it goes through waves. I think it's going to come back. I think right now for next couple months, it's going to be in a very difficult situation. Social media in general, like the free speech problem is something that every CEO, I'm sure that you both have to deal with this. It's very complicated. I think Twitch is facing major pressure. I think they have to ban a certain creator, and if they don't, they're going to lose 70% of their advertisers. Some people know who I'm talking about. I think YouTube is okay, but yeah, I think Twitch is in a very difficult situation. I know from 2 years on Rumble, I know all the headaches that Chris has to deal with. He's always in some legal battle. He's always having some government come after him. Rumble's getting shut down in different countries, and he has to go to court here, and he's suing Google. It's just constant. The guy's always at war. Like he's always fighting a battle. And you got to respect people that uphold values like free speech, but you're like, phew, man, I don't want to be dealing with that. So I think after the election and maybe several months into Trump's first, I mean, obviously you're in Australia, but American politics does kind of dictate the climate of the world. I think several months into Trump's second term, when things calm down a bit and we get used to that, then it'll get better and there'll be less pressure from, different organizations. But for now, it's a little bit oversaturated. And I think that it's almost like there's too much money involved. And I'm sure you've had to deal with that. One of my favorite streamers on Kick, I think that was probably the best example of like what Kick needs was a streamer like Your Age. And obviously Drake's stream yesterday was great. I'm not sure. I don't know. I read some clip. I'm not sure where Drake is at, but I thought that stream was great from Drake. But Your Age was like, he wasn't gambling and it was just like, it wasn't political content. He was just making, he was making dope content. But I'm sure like you have to deal with this, like the people that are going to produce that level of quality content consistently, there's just so much money involved compared to what it once was. And then I think not specifically Rage, but some creators get entitled. They think they deserve this amount, or that they're comparing to other people's deals. And you see publicizing like, the clip farming channels on X that are like $100 million deals. So then you think that you deserve that. So it's became, and Rumble had to deal with that too. Like creators scamming Rumble, to do like 8 streams for ridiculous amounts of money and, not fulfilling their contracts. It became like, that's why the NBA kind of sucks too. The NBA gave too many contracts to entitled players that don't really want to try that hard. And now they're not playing for the love of the game. They're playing so that they can go and sleep with IG thoughts. And, they want to be the cool guy. They want to be rappers basically. And they just play ball once in a while. So I want, once people start to do it for the love of it again, not that they aren't, but, fully, I think will be good.
It sounds like you're leading a renaissance. It sounds like you're describing a renaissance back into why streamers love streaming. And don't get me wrong, I think you should make a good living out of doing that, right? Good content, a fair day's pay for a fair day's work for sure. But to your point, like everything you're describing sounds like a renaissance and a call to action to get back to why you got into live streaming in the first place.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, that's why, so I'm doing Project X. It's not like I'm making a lot less than if I had invested. I'm doing like 16 to 18 hour days every single day. If I had spent 16 to 18 hours a day streaming, it would make like 5 times the amount of money. I'm paying for employees. I got this apartment, paying for equipment. It's the videos are expensive. It's a lot of investment, but it's investing into doing what I love, and that's invaluable. So I would like to see people get back to that. Yeah, and hopefully I could spur movement.
Yeah, well, I think it's also, especially these last couple of years, I think live streaming has been massively saturated with money, and I think people have realized that it's a very lucrative industry for creators. It's incredibly lucrative, and that's because it is incredibly powerful to be able to sit in front of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people and push any message, push anything. People want that attention. I think brands, companies, like you said, even governments have clued on to the fact that, hold on, these people have a lot of influence, and the money moving around it's big, right? But when that starts to happen, I think people start looking at things the wrong way. I think, the way you're looking at it, right? I can assume here, obviously you're making less money with what you're doing right now, but you're investing into your brand, right? You're investing into Sneeko, into what you represent, right? And I guess the idea being is that through doing this, shift in content, sure, you make less for whether it's a month, 2, 3, or a year, but in the long run, you're trying to aim for something different, trying to reach more people, trying to build your brand. I think people have kind of stopped thinking like that. I think with a lot of these people who made a lot of money in a short amount of time, they started to naturally get a little bit lazy, which is fine, right? I think the content, I think the production, I think the actual output of creators started to go downhill. And I think hopefully people will start to realize that, when it comes to streaming, to not sort of look at it as like the next 12 months or the next 24 months, but look at it more long term. Look at it like, what is my brand? What does it represent? What does it look like 10 years from now? If I put in 100% effort for the next 12 months, what will that mean for me in 5 years' time? And I think people are starting to think like that a little bit more, which is amazing. I think, people see the likes of, Mr. Beast is obviously the easiest example to use of someone investing into a brand, into a larger, bigger picture. And I hope that more streamers start to look at it that way, because the potential and the upside from treating this as more of a marathon than a sprint is huge. because, people are able to get these huge, massive deals, but they don't get renewed if you don't put in 100% work, right? That, things end up changing. People don't trust you. They won't work with you further. I think, that's hopefully the mindset that we see shift. But then again, I think it's also up to the companies, up to the brands, up to the sponsors, up to the platforms to incentivize the right kind of behavior. We're just talking to TIPSOUT just before around sort of like, the monetization models of platforms and the monetization models of live streaming in general, and how that's kind of, changed and how that's now hopefully incentivizing the right kind of, output and behavior. But yeah, I guess, live streaming in general and in terms of what it's gone through these last 2 years, I think it's certainly been rocky. And I think we've seen to be fair, Rage is an incredible creator that I think, made some amazing segments on Kick and did some really great work. Same with a lot of people that moved to Kick. But I think it's also about finding those people that are hungry, right? The people who really want to make a name for themselves, who haven't yet seen that success. They're the people that we back the most, right? Like they're the ones that have joined Kick, whether it's, from the ground up and created their whole following here and started literally from the bottom and now seeing that success. That's what inspires us the most. And I think they're going to be hopefully that next generation that sees the platform through. But, with that said, I think there's also a lot of people that, who have been around for a while that still have that fire, because it's competitive now. It's saturated. It's crazy saturated. The whole live streaming industry, you're competing with the likes of, Drake and Aiden stream last night, right? That's, you got Kai doing Mafiathons. You've got crazy shit going on. You're fighting for everyone's attention. And there's so many other opportunities, so many other options out there to watch. So, it's tough out there now. You really have to find a way to differentiate yourself. And, back to what we're just speaking about before, that's exactly, I guess, what you're kind of, doing to an extent as well, and finding that niche in the sort of the MP4 VOD sort of model right now.
I mean, I think what you said is very important in how billionaires talk. What are you, 29, 28?
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, 29. So you talk about investing in the long term and thinking 10 years, 20 years ahead. And that's how every billionaire or multi-millionaire that I've ever spoken to, they always talk like that. I was with Mr. Beast 7 years ago. He talked the same way. It was about building something in the future, and then look where he is now compared to where he was in 2018. I'm sure that you've had that vision with Stake and Kick for about 10 years. And so now that's where you are. But the problem with live streamers, and maybe just our generation, the social media generation, is we don't think 10 years in the future. We think about, the next minute, the next hour, the next day. How do we get I want money right now. I want money right now. So they just, you'll cash out from a stream, and then now what? So they're not really, if I can make $1 million today, then I'm good. And then they'll make that money, but they have nothing to do. They're just sitting around now, and you have this money, but you have no drive, you have no passion, you have no purpose. And that's really what it's all about. So that, I think that's just what separates the billionaires from everybody else is somebody who's investing a long-term into the future, building a brand, building something for the future, not just for the moment.
Yeah, well, I think I do think people are turning around and looking at content creation in the same sort of way now. I think it's starting to click now that people realize, hold on a second, it's not about this next one day, this next week. And I think when that starts to happen, I think that's when we'll start to see a lot of this, really high production level quality, these great streams, this great outlook. And I think it'll just hopefully, be healthier for the industry in general, right? I think, even when you think about clip farming, right? Clip farming is all about short-term game. It's about short-term hype. It's not sustainable in that sense. It makes for great, content for a short amount of time, but it's difficult to appease people constantly if that's what you're going for, right? So I think it all kind of really ties back to that same sort of concept of how do we, as an industry, look at things from a longer-term perspective. And hopefully more people start to change that way. And I think it's, as the money starts to pour in, people have the right management, the right advice, the right people by their side to help them sort of, join in on those, on that journey. But no, I appreciate the kind words, Nico. I think, having that long-term outlook is really important.
So when you're talking about investing into those new creators who want to create something, a genuine question, why would they pick Kick over Twitch or YouTube?
I think, well, right now, obviously, I think Kick has the 95-5 split. I think we've got the road to KCIP right now. So KCIP, on average, will pay a ton more. Obviously, Kick is not nearly as large, though. That's the thing, right? There isn't that same audience. That isn't that same viewer pool. But with that being said, there's also less competition. So I think a lot of people in certain categories see a lot more traction on Kick. I think, great example is the IRL category. The IRL category has been really positive for Kick streamers. I think there's been more viewers to streamers, so that ratio of people watching versus streaming is really healthy in that category. Same goes for the slot section, right? That slot section has grown to be really, really healthy. So I think a lot of people that want to go for that career path, if you want to call it that, have chosen Kick. I think there's Fortnite has been a great section, which has done very, very well. Same with Call of Duty. So I think there's a lot of upside, right, from that monetary perspective. I think Kick as a platform as well is a little bit more lenient on a lot of moderation side as well. I think there's people that have certain political views that are sometimes not even welcome elsewhere. Kick is very apolitical, right? We are based out here in Australia. We don't really follow that whole US political sort of system. So, you don't really get shunned or maybe neglected for having a differing view from what the platform does, because the platform doesn't really have a view at all. So I think there's a variety of reasons. I think just in general, I like to think that, when you look at any product, when you look at any service, any business, the business that ends up winning is the one that looks after its customer the best, right? And, the streamer and the viewers are the customer. And I like to think that Kick puts is taking every step possible to do the best thing by the customers, whether that's just giving people a fair split of their subscriptions or their revenue, whether that's just giving people the fair opportunity to kind of, monetize their channel, just regardless of whether they're quote unquote brand friendly. I think there's a lot of areas in which we're starting to understand what do customers want and how do we satisfy them in the best way. And I think people realize that. Of course, there's downsides to Kick. There's a whole heap of downsides. We're competing with YouTube, competing with Twitch. It's incredibly difficult to meet their size and offer the same upside in terms of discoverability or potential viewership. But I think that'll also start to change too. And I think at that point, there really is nothing stopping Kick from hopefully continuing to gain ground on those guys.
Hey, real quick. Sorry, Sneeko. Real quick to add to that. Real quick, you got guys like Eddie and Bijan that are within the generation, right? That understand live streaming. They're in it, right? But the other thing I want to highlight also is that because I saw your smirk a little bit when we were talking about a looser TOS. So I want you to be able to dive in on that, right? I want you to be able. I want the story behind the smirk, right? That you gave. And open that up, because I think one other thing is that especially when you came on to Kick, I think you experienced a kind of a quick ban, an early ban, right? And it's not even a ban. It's like an infraction. Like no one gets banned. Like it's so hard to get perma-banned on Kick or get banned on Kick. I think we had you back up within like an hour because you were able to have a conversation with people. We were able to like have a one-on-one, like reformative type of talk, or where did the ships miss each other, right? And then we got you back up, right? You're not having those kind of conversations on other platforms.
No, you're not.
Like at all. So I think that going back to the TOS, where we do have a lenient TOS and we're adapting day by day as we listen to our market. I feel that if you continue to stream on Kick, you will continue to feel that back and forth, that relationship, not so much like a hand slap, but more so a, hey man, like, can I get a warning or can we have a discussion on this before that happens? But I want to open it up to the smirk and make sure that we have a talk. You know what I'm saying? That you get it out.
I mean, what you're saying is true. You can't. I was banned on YouTube for COVID misinformation, election misinformation. 10 years of content. I never got a message from an employee. I never heard from anybody. I actually get to speak to people. We're speaking right now on Kick. That's something that's different. The smirk is like, if it happened once, but it was like 3 times. And I understand the reason I didn't bring it up immediately is because at the time it was really hectic in the streaming world. People were facing pressure a lot. But some of the stuff I remember, all the stuff I got banned for was I spoke to a 14-year-old fan who was a boy on Monkey, and they said I was speaking to him too. I should have skipped right away. I hadn't known that. I think another ban was for, it was on Halloween. Somebody dressed up as a certain Austrian guy, and that wasn't even me dressing up. It was him, and I got banned for that. I think I got banned for saying like, for maybe the N-word, but I'm part black. So it's just the bans that I got, I think were ridiculous. And compared to Twitch though, or compared to other websites, at least you get to speak. And it wasn't permaban. I think I was banned for 1 day. One of them was reduced. Another one was 3 days. So it was reasonable, but it felt like I was being, like every time I would stream, there was like hawks watching, like there was surveillance cameras everywhere, and every word I had to be hyper careful of. But back in 2023, Kick had a different atmosphere. Do I think that Kick changed for the better? Yeah. Some of that stuff was, we don't need to bring it up, but some of the stuff that on Kick in 2023 was pretty, like, it was entertaining, but glad that it changed. But yes, the stuff that I got banned for was, I don't think made any sense. But compared to Twitch, they didn't tell me. Twitch, I mean, look, here's the difference between Kick and Twitch. Kick, they explained it, and I get it. I can understand why the climate. Do I think that it makes sense? No, but from a staff perspective, I can understand it. Twitch, for example, they banned me for off-platform behavior. What is that? What did I do? Did I sleep and was I sleep talking the N-word? What did I do? What is off-platform behavior? Did my arm go up when I was calling a taxi or something? And that's just what does that even mean? At least Kick describes it. You speak to a moderator. We're speaking to you. They write a detailed email. You respond. They can reduce the ban. There's a conversation to be had. And that's something that other websites they can't even touch that. Twitch is they're facing pressure. They have advertisers. They need to either keep one Free Palestine guy, Hassanabi, or the other Free Palestine guy, Sneeko. Oh, this guy is liberal, whatever, he's LGBT allied. We'll keep him, we'll ban Sneeko for off-platform behavior. They don't even tell me what it is, and I'm permabanned. I'm permabanned on Twitch. And I was streaming there for 2 weeks. I had to refund a lot of my subs because I had gained a lot of subs. I think they kept the money. I didn't even make any of that. It was just a giant waste of time. I didn't get a warning either. Overnight. But I do have to give Kick props for at least having the conversation.
I think, the moderation side for us, I think you mentioned before the election, right? I think the election definitely drove the whole sort of content industry bonkers. I think the pressure from all different angles, I think the conflicting opinions and just so much that was going on at the time, I think, was a stage in which we had to clamp down on certain areas. And I think, you mentioned being watched like a hawk. I think, speaking from our experience, obviously a lot of what we have to do is based on reports. And whilst you've got a very loving community that sit there, the reports, the moment something goes wrong, the number of false reports was through the roof, right? Anything that goes even the slightest way misconceived would get reported and, reviewed, right? So I think, sometimes that can lead to this high level of scrutiny. Same for all larger creators on the platform, which we've now recognized. We've now recognized basically what's ended up happening through creating a consistent moderation policy. It's actually become relatively inconsistent because what we've done is we've actually started watching every single move of the big creators because everything's getting reported. There's people watching it, user reports are coming through on everything. And then naturally the slightly smaller creators are getting away with far more because we're just not seeing it, right? So we've kind of had to adjust a few things. And I think especially this last month, we've really started to look at the overall picture, started to understand, okay, what is the actual intent of this content? What's the context of the content and what's the outcome, and really starting to rank everything against that and trying to understand, what do we want to achieve as a platform? And our sole goal is to make entertaining content. Like you said, 2023 was a wild year, but there was also some pretty crazy stuff that went down. I think, some stuff that was almost like a world first for live streaming. I think it demonstrated what live streaming had to potentially offer. Again, I'm not sure if we're talking about the same stuff, but there was some, really great stuff that came out of that chaos. And I think, whilst it's been great that we've certainly tuned it down, I think we've also realized how do we kind of get the best of both worlds? How do we, not go down this avenue of just allowing anything? I think that's dangerous. And then again, I understand that you have to sometimes it's frowned upon that you have to moderate, but I think that's a fact of the internet nowadays. If you don't moderate it, it just gets out of hand. But at the same time, how can you achieve that while still allowing people to make the most entertaining content and go out and do what they want to do, not have to kind of tread on eggshells almost. So, I think your situations are I'd like to say probably during a time period in which things were a little bit full on, to say the very least. And I like to think that this last month things have changed a little bit, and I think we've really struck a nice balance in terms of where moderation sits.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be snarky by the smirk. I was just reminded of that time, and I understand. I completely get why it was like that, and I'm seeing Kick now. Obviously, it's cooled down quite a bit. So I think when I do return to streaming, it's going to be a little bit easier. They have been incentivized by other large streamers to falsely report. There's a lot of people that, on different websites that have targeted my censorship and encourage people to mass report and to ban me. So that's something that I'm definitely used to. But I've seen, I got to give you props. Kick has definitely made a lot of strides in the past 2 years.
And listen, man, I didn't want to put you on the spot on calling out the smirk, but it's more so us establishing a relationship that you can say whatever you want to us. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't ever feel like I don't want you to hide behind your body language. As the relationship develops with Kick, just want you to know that, hey man, just come out and say it. Tell us your opinion. Because you've been in the game for a long time, man. Like, one thing in looking back at your career is that yes, you are highly opinionated and you're a lightning rod. But there's always two sides of the coin where you kind of look at what you're saying and you're kind of like, I kind of maybe see where he's coming from here. But at the same time, what I really respect is that no matter what platform you get banned off of, man, you keep fucking chugging, man. Like, you reinvent yourself once YouTube goes away, you reinvent yourself on Rumble, you reinvent yourself on Twitch, you come over to Kick, you kick the tires, but then you reinvent yourself on X. You've worked with Kanye, you mentioned Mr. Beast, like you just keep chugging along, and you seem to hold true to yourself. So I just am saying this so that when we have more of these conversations, you feel comfortable in just coming out, being yourself, saying what's on your mind. That way we can adapt better as a platform.
Yeah, that's the only way to thrive. I mean, that's probably the balance between the relationship between the creators, the audience, and this tricky subject called free speech, is that you kind of have to mold it all to create a welcoming atmosphere. And probably some of the obstacles that Kick has had to face is that it's a newer website. YouTube has had 15 years to create that atmosphere. So now it's pretty seamless. Twitch has had an advantage. Rumble was around for a long time, but it recently blew up a lot. So they're facing a lot of struggles now. I think what I've come to realize is that the world doesn't really want free speech. Like, they say that this is a value they hold, but if moderation means getting rid of, trolls hiding behind with 5 followers in an anime profile picture, just spamming slurs all day long, because that's free speech. Just saying slurs over and over again. Most people don't want that. They would prefer going on a website where that doesn't exist. So it's about the right amounts, and it's about trying to encourage people to put their best, to put the best content out there, not just use free speech to be a troll. But we do have to appreciate how much Kick has allowed compared to most websites.
Yeah, I guess that's I must say, when Kick was first launched, right, the first thing we were like, let's just allow everything almost. Like, it was like, that's the no-brainer way to go, because why do we want rules? Let everyone, free speech is great. I guess, it's just been this learning curve, and I don't know, I'm sure you've been down this same pathway too, right? I'm sure you're a big part of the conversation around free speech and where moderation lies, and I've been in it way longer than, I have or we have. But, I think what you mentioned there's pros and cons to it, right? And I think Andrew and I were speaking about this a couple of weeks back. I think X is a great example whereby obviously the free speech is out there, and it's amazing, right? Free speech is great. However, with that, you have to have thick skin, because it gets pretty dark. It gets pretty dark out there. There's there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of strong opinions. It's not as cozy and friendly as a place that's heavily moderated. And again, that's just balance. It depends what you're looking for, right? I think some people love that, and that's great. And some people want something else from social media. Me personally, when I go to, I want to involve myself in social media, I look at it as entertainment, right? I prefer to have that kind of, walking away with a good feeling. But how you get there and what you're looking for, I guess it's two very separate sort of avenues. I guess when you look at live streaming, though, I like to think that everyone comes to live streaming because they want to be entertained. They want to have a good time. They want to feel cozy. They want to have a great experience. So that's where I think, making sure that there is that balance between a level of moderation, but also that balance between allowing people to, have that element of free speech as well is truly important. But I guess, it's going to be something that people are going to be debating 100 years from now or whatever, right? It's never going to be that perfect balance. It's a very hard one to strike right. And it's been the most challenging aspect of Kick for us for sure so far.
I mean, ironically, I think YouTube, even though they banned me, I think that the 3-strike policy is probably the most fair. If the strikes make sense, mine didn't. Election misinformation, medical misinformation, stuff that people would be like, what? Today. But, a 3-strike, rather than just banning someone, perma-banning like Twitch for off-platform behavior, giving someone warnings in the conversations, it seems like you guys are on the right track. I think so far it's like you get a 1 day, then a 3-day, then a 7-day, then a 30-day, then a perma-ban.
It's pretty much depending on the situation. That's pretty much the model that follows.
I think that makes sense for pretty good rules.
But also the appeals process, right? Like, yes, we have those in place, but our appeals process is very, very fast, very, very lenient, to the point where sometimes you'll be back on the air or have the ban reduced by like 70% in some cases. Yep. So the appeals process is a lot more in favor of the creator for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I think one thing that was changed since I got like 3 bans in a row, I think it was like 3 bans in a week, was that you no longer get banned during the stream. That if it's an infraction during the stream, then they'll warn you and then they'll kick you off afterwards. When I was streaming, it was just like lights off in the middle. And sometimes when it would lag, you'd be like, did I get banned again? Like, what happened? You're always wondering, did that get removed or no?
What got removed?
Did you hear what I said? Did the ban midstream get removed?
Oh, sorry, the midstream. Yeah. So I think I mentioned this to you briefly, right? I think the big thing we've looked to change has been like that midstream ban. I think that there is probably the most controversial aspect. Like what can end up happening is what people are tuned into a stream, right? They're enjoying the content, they're having a great time watching it. And when it's like you coming in and turning off the television midway through and a child getting pissed off, like rightfully so. Like it's the same situation. You end up not only upsetting the creator, but you end up upsetting the whole entire community, especially if it's for a ban reason, which is like less severe, right? There's a whole multitude of ban reasons. Of course, there's very severe stuff and then there's less severe stuff, right? I think cutting a stream midstream for something less severe is something we've learned that is not the best way of approaching the situation. Best to let it, end, and at that point go, hold on a second, X, Y, and Z was not the way to go about it. As a result of that, we're going to have to, do a 24-hour ban or something. That's kind of the approach we want to take is really trying to avoid cutting streams off midway through, because it's not fair sometimes on the audience as well. The audience is invested, whether it's an hour or 2 or 3 into watching the content. Maybe there's something special about to happen. And I think that was getting a lot of the backlash coming. So, we're making some changes around that. I think, again, it just comes down to this learning curve. And I think a lot of it's just based on feedback. That feedback we've gotten from whether it's yourself or other creators as well, is being able to go, okay, hold on a second, why do we ban people midstream, or why do we do this? And we start questioning it. And I think, a lot of it is just because other platforms do it. And I tell you what, I don't think other platforms are doing stuff for the right reasons all the time. I think just because YouTube does it this way, or just because Twitch does it this way, or just because another platform does it this way, doesn't mean it's the right way. I think it's about utilizing the fact that we're a small team, we're an agile company, and we can make these small changes which can be really impactful into the end result. So, that there I think is one example of a change that we made quite recently in that sort of 1 month, 2 month period where we've been really adapting our policies. So, I'm hoping that's going to help the overall landscape of how people feel about our moderation policy.
What else are Kick's goals in 2025? I saw that you got some new advertisers. You brought on UFC, and it seems like there's more sponsors and Kick is becoming more, I see the advertisements in more places. Do you have any major goals for 2025?
Yeah, from Kick side, I think our biggest goal right now is going to be having to penetrate further into the English speaking market in terms of hours watched, in terms of viewership. That's our key metric. Obviously collaborations with the UFC, collaborations with the F1 is great for brand awareness. I think it's good that people start to know what Kick is. They start to hear Kick and go, I know what that is, right? It's great for building that foundation. But realistically, the only way that actually builds up the platform as, from a substance perspective is going to be great content, right? Would much prefer to invest in great streamers, in people who are going to put in all that effort that, you're talking about before, people who are hungry to truly go ahead and do what hasn't been done before in the industry, rather than say, plaster our name on the UFC, or F1 and stuff like that. I think that was important in the early days for ensuring that we had, that initial brand awareness. But, I think there is a lot of opportunities in a sense of integrating into sports. Like, obviously, Rumble did with Power Slap, right? I think that was really cool what they did there. I think trying to find that interjection between like sport and live streaming, I think that exists somewhere. I don't think people have pulled it off quite yet. Obviously, esports saw like a huge success with live streaming being its sort of main distribution partner. And for that very reason, I think it can work with other organizations, whether it's, sporting organizations or anything for that matter. So, we certainly want to explore that. But at the same time, I think when we get distracted from the main aspect of live streaming, which is just, the creators themselves and the high quality content that comes from them, I think can be quite dangerous. So yeah, we don't want to get too caught up in all the other fancy stuff. I think it really is just about attracting the right people with the right communities, with the right audiences and the right approaches to live streaming, which will truly help us to grow and gain market share. But for 2025, it's, I think we just keep accumulating up all these learnings that we've had. We're still so new to this game, right? Like we really are in the scheme of things where we've gone into this guns blazing, not expecting what it's going to be, what it was going to entail at all. We've had to kind of learn on the spot. I like to think we're kind of somewhat regarded as knowing what we're doing to a little bit of an extent now. And I think with this, knowledge and understanding of the broader industry, we can start really starting to give the bigger players a run for their money. But, we'll see. Maybe we've got a whole bunch more pitfalls that we need to fall into before we start, having a real shot.
I know you didn't ask for my feedback, but because it's Kick Talk, I'll give it. I think I don't gamble anymore, but I do watch some gambling streams. I watched I think the Drake stream was really entertaining. I like, if you're going to do the stake integration, I like when it's like an event stream and then it's not solely focused. Like here and there, they'll play a couple slots and then they go back into what they're doing, so it doesn't feel forced. Sometimes I even watch like guys like Cheezer when they get like, they like hit themselves and they scream and stuff. That's kind of entertaining. I watch Train sometimes, but if you were going to ask my advice, I would say don't go full in on. I think Kick got the gambling on lock. I want to see more. More guys that are trying to do, whether hit or miss, that are really trying to do content. Guys that are like flying around the world, like Neon went all around the world, did stuff like that. I wanted to see more. But even then, like sometimes some of these streams, like it's like, oh, we're in Colombia, or like we're catching a pedophile, and then you click on the stream and they're just gambling, and I'm like, what am I watching? So that's why I think a guy like Your Age was good, is because it wasn't and wasn't involved in all. And it kind of got rid of that, that stake funnel feel that I do get sometimes, even though like some of the gambling stuff is entertaining, but I don't want to personally, because I watch Kick more than Twitch or YouTube. If you see my watch time on a streaming website, I know people complain about the Kick app. I like it. I like the way the chat moves. I like the green and black look of the website. And I would just say, as a viewer, because I watch tons of streams, if there were a few more non-gambling people that were solely not doing it, so that it got rid of that sort of feel. And I think that's how Twitch really started to succeed, because it started as the poggers, Omega Lol, Uwu, like cat ears, whatever garbage. And then it branched out when they started bringing rappers and celebrities. Then it became huge. Then everybody knew what Twitch was. In 2013, 14, it was just like, furries and people going to Comic-Con convention weirdos. That was Twitch. And then it became, what it is today because of, culture, and it was cool and it was following trends. I think Kick can 100% follow the same trajectory if it branches out from gambling a bit more.
I think, yeah, no, I from our side, right? I think what's come with Kick, right, and especially these first 2 years, we were just talking to TIPSOUT, right? He, the CEO of OTK, and yeah, he kind of mentioned when Kick was first launched, it was like watching a person try to clear a Grand Canyon on a motorcycle, and after like 3-4 people had failed. I think to get people to switch platforms early on to this brand new thing, it was very hard, right? So I think the initial audience that we attracted were people who heavily relied on gambling deals. I think that's something which is certainly not is a fact. But I think that's starting to change now. People look at Kick and they're like, okay, these guys are for real. These guys mean business. They've been here for over 2 years now. They're still doubling down and continuing to invest more in the platform. And I think we're starting to get more creators like your age, hopefully moving over, right? From our side, my side personally, like stake side is already saturated, right? Anyone on Kick has seen stake. We don't need any more stake ads, right? We're cool with the gambling side. We're not here to push the gambling side any further. At this point, it's already there's not much else to gain. We want to see more people like your age, right? We want to, even I've said this publicly even a year ago, I think, we want people gambling less, if anything. I think obviously the upside from gambling advertisement is very high. The money involved in it is quite insane. Not just from stake side, right? We're talking all competitors. The gambling industry is quite big, right? So if someone doesn't take a stake deal, they'll take another deal elsewhere, right? And that money exists here on Kick because we give people the opportunity to stream that gambling side. But no, I completely get where you're coming from when it feels like, hey, look, is this like it detracts from the content, right? And I'll be honest when I say there's been so many times I've been on a call myself with a large creator. I'm like, we got to cut the gambling out. Like, let's make this a gambling free live stream because it'll do better for the viewership. And again, going back to what we're talking about before about looking at that sort of 5-10 year roadmap, like rather than getting a quick payday today, look at creating like an amazing segment for the long run. And I think we share a similar sort of outlook on some of that content because it becomes it definitely detracts from the main purpose. And I think we want to bring more people like your age who don't have any desire for the gambling. I think that's really healthy. And that's why we'll continue to try to work with people like that. There isn't a situation ever where we're like, you must gamble, which is a common misconception, which I think people certainly have.
No, and that's not true. I know personally it's not true, but go ahead.
No, real quick, just to add to that, my own perspective in the TIPSOUT conversation also, where you see, off-brand, you see OTK having to restructure because they went after like a network television model during COVID, right? They just these bonkers, like bring in every producer. We got to make a set. We got to have a script writer. We got to shoot on red cameras. We got to blow it out, right? And then you broadcast on the web, right? This transition of content, I think. The producers have to be removed from the creator and the community, right? I envision more because I come from network television very early on. But what I really like about live streaming is that you remove the producers, you remove the executive producers, you remove everyone that waters down the content. And I think that that's where you really need to hold the line for the creator. What I do agree about, like movie models or television network models, is I do think you need to have a slate of programming. Like if you could imagine your Project X being like our documentary arm of a type of programming, right? Then you have like Underground Uprise, which is a music arm of our type of programming. And then you take something like what Ice Poseidon did with Hunger Games, right? Which is kind of more of your IRL arm. But you start finding these great portfolios of shows that you can start. I'm not saying blow them out like movies or television, but give them some structure and support, but still allow the creator to have the creative control. That way, the studio or Kick or the platform's not coming in between the creator. And the worst thing that also happens, man, is all these agendas, advertisers start getting in there. They start putting their 2 cents on like, hey, you know what? We really like what Sneako's doing, but we don't know if we want to really cover the lady that got burned in the New York subway, right? And then we're coming to you with notes and we're watering down your content. That's what I think we completely need to stay away from and be able to say to other influencers outside of what the creator's trying to do is say, hey man, thanks, this relationship's not working out. We got to let these guys cook and do their thing. But at the same time, I think that creators also are finding that line, right? And we want to keep encouraging creators to cross that line because I think that that's the only way you're going to evolve. So, but just my 2 cents on that. And then one last question for you. What does the Vero mean behind your right shoulder?
Oh, that's Viral. That's a software company I'm working on. Separate.
Got it.
Yeah, I didn't know you came from network television. What were you saying?
Sneak, I was going to quickly ask you, like you're talking about like great content creators. But I don't think you've been live in a while. There was that whole thing for a while where everyone was kind of talking about their Mount Rushmore of streamers. Have you got 4 people that you'd put up there as maybe a help for us in terms of what we need to be looking for?
Wow, Eddie's clip farming me. Okay, top Mount Rushmore of streamers. Mount Rushmore of streamers. People that I watch the most or that I think is that are the best. My favorite. Okay, top 4. I mean, I gotta be honest. Like the streamer that I watch the most is definitely when he is streaming is Aiden. I watch. I turn on Fresh and Fit quite a bit. Sometimes like late night, I'll turn on the after hours show. Who else do I watch the most? Yeah, this is going to be clipped. I'm trying to be. See, now you brought me back into this world, trying to navigate it. So like he left this out, he left him out. The last 2. Yeah, I was never, I always like kind of hated streaming before like 2-3 years ago. Before I started doing it, I really didn't like it. And then I just started doing it because I'm like, whoa, you can make a lot of money doing this. And it's like way easier and quicker than making videos. Like I don't need to edit. I just got to like turn on my camera and yap. The last 2 that I think are the best, I'll put myself up there.
I guess so, yeah.
I actually think that if you had to go with my watch time, I probably watch back my own VODs like more than some other. And then the last one would be, I watch sometimes recently. I mean, I watch Rage sometimes. I like your Rage streams, even though I don't think I tell him that. This is the first time. And I used to watch Alex Jones quite a bit, but not anymore. I'm taking too long to give you this clip. I can't remember.
No, I wasn't looking for the clip. So I'm genuinely curious because when you talk about like great content creators, it's helpful to have that kind of outside view on what we need to look for, right? But you kind of, it's a bit different. Yeah, obviously like Fresh and Fit's a great example of what they're doing out there is pretty unique in terms of the talk show and the production that goes into that. But keeping that kind of raw authenticity of live streaming alive still is pretty cool. I like what they're kind of doing there. It's an interesting approach.
Yeah. They definitely brought a format and copied and pasted quite a bit by other people.
Is there a reason you didn't go with like Kai or anyone from AMP or those guys?
I just don't really watch them.
Fair enough.
It's not really my sense of humor. That's like I don't like the it's not really my sense of humor.
What about that IRL streaming, like the Fuzis, Ice Poseidons, all those guys? How do you like them?
I don't watch those either, to be honest. No.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to. I just don't. I don't watch IRL streams like that. I'm not a big fan. I'd rather just go outside. I always wondered. That was something.
You were on the
I've done a lot
of IRL for so long there.
I was a pioneer. Like in 2023, like I really blew up. Especially when I was on Rumble. I think when Kick started, I was one of the biggest Kick streamers without being on Kick. Yeah. I was on everybody's stream. I was around like on everybody's thing and all the major moments, and I never even had a Kick account. But I was like, I remember like being in the moment, like, some guys falling around with a backpack. I'm like, why are people watching this? Like, I don't like why are people, like, you're watching people go to the gym? Like, are you dumb? I'm not trying to be mean to people watching, but I'm like, dude, just go to the gym. Like, why are you watching someone do curls right now? Or like, or be like on a date with a girl. It's like, go on a date. Like, why are you... I'm here.
Well, I guess that's kind of the bit, right? You get to kind of live through people, right? Like, I must say, like, recently, what's a good example? Like Neon, for example, was traveling like South America. I've never done that before in my life, but I kind of felt like I was there every now and again. Like, you kind of get that opportunity, and not everyone has the opportunity to do like, simple things like that, whether it's go to a gym or go on a date, right? I don't know. Like, everyone's got their own situation. So I guess it's got that hole to fill. But it's funny you mentioned like you're the number one Kick streamer without being on Kick. I remember very clearly like when the IRL stuff was going crazy, like I said to so many people, like, you need to collab with Sneeko, go collab with Sneeko. Like, we'll like try to get you on the camera without like, without having you fully engaged, which was, maybe a bit sneaky of us.
That's smart. That's the best. I mean, it makes sense. If I was a CEO, I'd probably be doing the same thing. But yeah, it's just Eddie pulling. It's like that the Eddie puppet meme behind the scenes, pulling the strings. Of like, get Sneeko on the street. It's funny. I think top four. I mean, if I'm going to put it up there, I watched. I think Neon would be the fourth. I do because one thing that I do have the benefit of is like when I watch a stream, I could just text the streamer. Like if I'm bored and I turn on a stream, I can be part of the stream in a second. Like you can text them and they're like, Sneeko said this, and then now they're doing it. And especially when he was blowing up a lot of 23, I was watching quite a bit of Neon.
Yeah, well, you got out there on the moment, right? I think that's kind of what sparked the IRL stuff from memory is you just kind of went out there and started streaming Neon. And some of those streams, just the numbers were insane. Like it was at that kind of almost that peak, right?
Can I ask the both of you, Kick in general, how much, I mean, we spoke about this before, but how much of these views are real?
In terms of, lost you.
Camera dies. That was not us, chat. It was not us, chat.
Oh, my battery just...
I'll answer the question whilst your camera's off anyway. But I think, it's no secret that like viewbotting has gotten like pretty out of hand on like in general, right? I think it's definitely not isolated the Kick. I always want to preface this by saying like, we've now had the opportunity to work with a lot of streamers from whether it's YouTube or whether it's Twitch or whether it's anywhere, right? And we've also got the luxury of being able to see what people's real viewership is, right? There's many, when you are the platform, you've got tools at your disposal to differentiate between bots and real people. It's not that difficult. And so many people that we brought over, the biggest thing we learned in this, like, the first 2 years is do not trust anyone's view count on Twitch. Do not trust anyone's view count on YouTube. Do not trust their Instagram followers. Do not trust their Twitter followers. Fuck all that. Like, you cannot use that as a benchmark for like saying, okay, you are worth X, because it is most likely either going to lead you to overpaying or completely under of valuing someone, because that is not the metric you should be looking at. Everything online is inflated nowadays. It's the reality. Well, not everything, but a lot is inflated. And I think you have to be very careful how you look at live streaming, how you look at all social media. I think you have to do your own sort of diligence in understanding what people's real output is. But there's a good portion. There's even on Kick, right? We see it all the time. We try our best to control it. We try not to incentivize it. Most importantly, I think the biggest mistake we made early on was we were incentivizing view botting, not deliberately, but because we didn't have the tools to understand the extent of it. To begin with, we didn't quite 100% know the difference between a real viewer and a view bot. Now we've invested a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of work into trying to really understand what people's real viewership is. So now the moment someone starts view botting, we don't, incentivize that. We don't give them anything extra. If anything, we do the opposite. We start going, okay, this person here is trying to game the system. Let's, lower their visibility. Let's, fight back a little bit. So, I think that's been a big learning curve for us. I think in terms of completely beating view botting, it's impossible. Like no matter what you do, people will find ways to accumulate a view or replicate what a human can do on a computer. Like bots are getting crazy intelligent now, right? Like as you see with whatever AI is doing right now, solving the problem of replicating what a viewer is an easy solution in the scheme of what technology is achieving nowadays. But yeah, I think live streaming in general is heavily affected by view botting. There's no two ways about it. And I think people just need to be very much conscious of that. And when you look at someone's view count, I think don't look at that as the main metric. I don't think that's the main metric you should look for anymore.
Yeah, the other thing I want to add to that is just there's far more sophisticated techniques other than AI view botting like pixel embedding. Like you're not going to find that on Kick at mass scale. Like the pixel embedding that goes on other sites is absolutely bonkers. The other thing is this idea of combining chats is another massive thing to start watching out for, to see how those numbers magically inflate a view count.
Yeah, that's what I don't like about Twitch people. I think if they said this was a award show, some girl said, Kick is all bot. Well, every website is. Every website has inflation. A lot of it, it's incentivized. If you look at Instagram, for example, I was in Miami for 2 years. Half these people with 500,000 followers and tattoos and a Lamborghini, all the followers are fake. The Lambo's rented. It's all inflated. I mean, Twitch has the probably equal amount of bots, maybe a little less than Kick, but even YouTube has it, Rumble has it. They all have it. And one thing I noticed as a brief Kick streamer was, and I think you touched on it, Eddie, was that it was encouraged and incentivized in the beginning, and now you're seeing the repercussions of that. And so a lot of the chat is dominated by they'll always be talking about the view count. And as a streamer, that makes the atmosphere not fun at all. It's there was sometimes where I stream I don't want to look at you don't want to look at the chat, or you don't want to look at the view count. But even if you don't look at the view count while you're streaming, people are in the chat saying 5K views, 6K view. They're just saying you fell off, not you're just trying to watch a video or play a game. And it's okay, I got to scream and jump around and bark to constantly keep it at this level for you to be here. And it's that makes it not fun to stream. And I've noticed that on Kick more than other websites. Rumble, I didn't feel that as much, almost at all. YouTube, when I was streaming for a couple months, I was a new streamer, I didn't see that. But out of all the websites I've streamed on, Twitch including, I did see that the most on Kick. And because I've never view botted in my life, and I never will. And because I've never done, people would hit me up, some random number texted me. I don't want to expose it, but some guy texted me I can get you to 20K. Everyone's doing it. You got to do it too. Kind of whispering, you got to do it. You got to do it. And I was like, should I do it? If everyone's doing it, should I do it? But I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. But even as someone who never did and never will, it's it feels like you're running a race handicap if everybody else is doing it, and you're constantly wondering. And if the chat's always talking about it, it's okay, if I just bought 5K more viewers so the chat would shut up, is this worth it? And in a way it is, because in a weird way it is, because if I were to bot 6K viewers so that they would stop saying I fell off, then my mood would be better and the stream would be better. And in turn, there'd be even more viewers because I'm in a better mood and I have a better stream. So if I'm not view botting and they're all talking about it, I'm in a bad mood, they're in a bad mood, the whole stream is just about this, the views are going to go down even more because it's a terrible stream.
Well, I think that's the scary part, though, right? I think people, I don't know. I've witnessed it a little bit now, right? And you see people when they start view botting, right? Like there'll be some people they'll have say 100 viewers, and they'll start view botting 50 viewers. That comes up on our system, like we suddenly see 50 viewers, and then the next stream they drop to 140 viewers. So they drop 10 real viewers and they've got 50 added. So they add 70 new viewers, and then they slowly go ahead. And before you know it, people start view botting like a lot more. It's one of these things whereby, you know, once you get a taste for it, you continue to kind of go down this dark path almost. And then I think ultimately what ends up happening is you lose the love for the game because it's no longer something which feels authentic. You're no longer competing. You lose what one of the most important aspects of streaming is about, is that kind of competitive landscape and the fact you can quantify your success. But at that point, they don't even know what their real view count is. Like people lose track. They're like, fuck, I don't even know what's going on, right? So I think it's definitely dangerous. Like I think nowadays though, I think it's going to start changing because I think up until about a year ago, I don't think the viewers understood how many people were view botting and how prevalent it was. I think there was this like misunderstanding, but I think now it's starting to change. And I think people who have really authentic communities and actually aren't engaging in that will be further respected. And I think the audiences will definitely, continue to remain loyal to them. The real viewers, right? The people who are actually out there making the communities what they are. And I think you can really tell who's authentic and who's not, right? There is a stark difference between a channel which is heavily inflated and one that isn't, right? And I think people are starting to understand that. They know what to look for. And I think people will start going, you know what, I want to be associated with this guy over here because it's they're playing fair. And I hope that starts to become the trend and people stop sort of supporting that. But it's tough. It's tough because everyone's sitting there comparing their success based on this magic number, which is heavily influenced by a whole range of factors. And, I think what you said as well about the rented Lambo and the fake 500K, I think Instagram, Twitter, it's everywhere, right? It's not just on live streaming. It's everything nowadays is living this sort of like fake reality to an extent. But I think it's just the nature of social media in general and that kind of pathway we're going down. How do we fight it? I'm not sure. How do we stop people from not getting demotivated by not participating? That's even better question. It's tough. But I think ultimately one thing I always say to people when they bring up this subject is like, Kick as a platform will reward you and look after you more if you play fair. Like we will do that all the time. And, we'll make sure that we look out for people that are playing by the rules and not taking those shortcuts. And long term, I'm positive it'll work out better for everyone involved.
So that's interesting. So you could track people's channels and how much everyone's botting.
Yeah, it's not that complicated, right? The difference between a real viewer is there's so many ways to track what a real viewer looks like. But the thing is, right, and everyone then says, oh, why do you not show the real view count then? Because of course we can show the real view count, but then the bots become more sophisticated. They start guessing and checking. They start understanding. They don't know how we're tracking them right now. Obviously, it's a game of cat and mouse, right? If you continue to get stricter and stricter, soon enough, everyone would just be, soon enough people will just be paying people in poorer countries to actually watch the channel, right? Like that's where it'll end up being, right? Like that will, and if you get strict enough on view botting, that's where it ends up going to the point where you can't detect it, right? But without giving away too many secrets, I got to be careful how much I talk about how we track all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it is something which every platform can see so easily. If you think about what a view bot is, it's just like someone hitting a connection from a bunch of proxies, right? The traffic looks very, very different to what a real person looks like. From a basic computer science perspective, it's not a hard problem to solve.
Yeah, and it's Sneako, just to add to that, imagine being that platform that knows the inflation, right? And then passing off that inflation as views to your advertisers and then charging your advertisers for those eyeballs. That's what's crazy, man. That's what's really crazy. The other thing is another telltale sign that has piped down a lot more because people have started realizing that Kick is only paying out for organic views is, dude, I would say like 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, when KCIP was like cooking, that people would just go take to social media and be like, I have 600 viewers. Why am I making $3 an hour? It's kind of like, because we're only paying you out for your authentic views. You're only making this more awkward by posting these things, right? And it was a flurry of that. It was just kind of like you're kind of answering your own question in your posts by doing this. So, but yeah, to Eddie's point, like all platforms have the resources.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's like they're all trying to defraud the government. And Eddie kind of described a very dystopian, very possible future where it's like some guy gets a $500 million gambling deal and then pays a bunch of like people in Pakistan and India to just watch the stream, inflate the viewers, get the advertise. Like that money is there. Like someone could definitely afford doing that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned
even
that.
the way
the best way to ViewBot right now is to run like maybe like a $3 giveaway every like few minutes, and you can get a lot of real viewers doing that. You can get into some unique situations. Maybe I don't want to give away too many secrets here, but yeah, there's some very creative ways of doing it, and people are very smart at it.
And the way you describe it is like identical to like it's first it's a drip and then you're doing it. You're not viewbotting anymore because you want to like boost yourself. You're just doing it to maintain. It's identical to heroin. And even the guy that hit me the first time, he did the same thing that a heroin dealer does. He botted one of my streams, like my first or second kick stream, for free without me asking him to do it. And he's like, "You want this again? Now you're gonna have to pay." And it was tempting because I remember the stream it had like 36K views, and I'm like, that was dope. Like that felt great. If I had that all, he gave me the high for free, and I had a little bit of I got addicted a little bit. You know, I really wanted. I was tempted. So it's identical. But it's just gonna take time. I think that, and you did say it, but yeah, the kick culture is, compared to other websites, definitely is more hyper focused on view count compared to others. But I think in time it's gonna wear off. And I think definitely in the beginning, I believed a lot of it in 2023. I'm like 70,000 viewers, like and now I'm like, okay, relax, guy, come on, man. So I think in time in 2025, people are gonna start to see it, and it's just gonna become kind of cringe to ViewBot when everybody knows it. So it'll wear off.
I think so. I hope so. I think it's also just about having these discussions openly as well. I think like the whole botting problem's been something people have pretended doesn't exist and no one wants to talk about it. And like, you know, you never hear any company even discuss it whatsoever. Like I remember like obviously when Elon was buying Twitter or something, it was something they brought up and it just became this thing that no one wanted to even address whatsoever or dive deep into. But you know, Kick right now, we're happy to have these discussions. I think we've been very, very heavily, you know, discussing like how we even like look at it and the simple fact that we know what's going on. And, you know, I think just, getting people more educated. I hope that there's a few streamers who are even watching this go, hold on a second, rather than going ahead and you know, taking that free hit of heroin and, as he called it, or that free sort of dopamine hit that you can get from these view botters. They avoid doing it because they know ultimately they're not going to be kind of getting away with it, right? I don't know. I think open and more transparently speaking about the problem in general is going to help to shift that, shift that mentality for sure.
Yeah. Look forward to, definitely look forward to seeing all of that. I think 2025 is going to be a great year for Kick, you know, regardless if I still stream at the same level or whatever happens, I think there's a great future for Kick.
What makes you say that?
I mean, the direction. I mean, obviously they've said things about the staff and the moderation and, I've heard things about you, Santa Maria, of course, but it seems like you guys have a good vision. And, you know, you definitely have belief, and everything seems like it's gonna make sense. And also, it's just the best alternative to Twitch right now. I like the website. I like the Kick chat. Regardless if I continue to stream on Kick, I'm going to continue to watch Kick. I mean, I like the website, and I think Twitch is in big trouble. I think they're on top right now because they have the new FaZe guys are doing well, but they are facing a very major problem because they're completely reliant on their advertisers, which are politically held. So if they don't ban Hassan, they're gonna lose like 70% of their advertisers. They're caught in a weird spot. So and that's gonna expose all. They thought that they can just get away with that. So they were faced. That's why I was banned. They were faced with pressure to ban him, and so instead they just like take Sneeko, and they just got rid of me for no reason. We'll keep this guy. He's got he's only been on here for a month. So they gave me as like a little snack, but they want they want everything. And
have you like confirmed this, or is it kind of just like what you reckon the most likely outcome is?
I mean, that's what makes the most, like, why else would I be banned at that time when they were facing pressure from the ADL and like off-platform behavior, permaban still hasn't been explained at that time. And we've seen them, the ADL has put out a list of streamers that they said were like raging, hateful, anti-Semites and all this.
Like Candace Owens win it all or something like that? Like
Candace Owens won, top of 2024. So yeah, and I was easier. So if I'm Dan Clancy, even though at TwitchCon, which I went to, Dan Clancy gave this big speech like, we're gonna describe exactly why you were banned. Yeah, fraud. Why was I banned? It's been how many months now? Off-platform behavior. No one gave me an email. That is the most ludicrous ban ever. And that's the only feasible reason. They needed to give the Lions something to eat.
Yeah, I think
I was calling the crossfire.
We've kind of had these discussions a little bit when off-platform behavior happens, right? And we get pressure to say like act on it, right? And it's a scary rabbit hole to kind of go down, because the moment you start banning people for off-platform behavior, it basically is a right to ban people for whatever you want, right? Like you said, like it could be for anything at that point. It is sticky. I see merit for it in a lot of situations. Don't get me wrong. Like there are situations whereby it kind of directly links to the live streaming culture and having that negative effect on the platform. But when you do have that freedom just to hand out that ban, it is basically fail safe to ban whoever you want if needed, right? So if indeed that was you were kind of the snack for the whoever it was wanting answers, then yeah, I guess that's the ban you're going to be given, and it's a way to get rid of anyone. So yeah, it's a dangerous path to go down. And I guess the proof and the burden around supplying that isn't even required. So yeah, I think let's see how the next sort of 12 months plays out. We're pretty confident we can give the big guys a run for their money up there. I think it's going to be a shifting sort of landscape as time goes on. There's obviously some really, really great creators on both YouTube and Twitch, and I think as long as Kick can start to attract a few of those right people, and people start seeing the upside and start wanting to take the risk of moving platform, because it's scary moving platform. It really is. You got to start from scratch, right? I think we can start to shift the tide a little bit.
Yeah, it is. And for a lot of these established creators, like it seems like you're moving to a new country. It's something that I'm kind of used to. I've just been floating around social media, like I've been a wandering whatever for however how long. So it's been easy for me, but for a lot of these people, it seems like I always thought it was like very natural. You go to this website, and my audience is used to it. They'll just, all right, we'll migrate. We're going here now. We're going here. For other people, it does seem like a big jump, but I think a lot of them will definitely see that. And it makes, I don't gamble, but I would place bets on Kick. One thing that you said in this conversation that makes a lot of sense is that the fact that you're in Australia and you remain apolitical is really the best way to establish a new website right now, because you're not caught in the Twitch is very clearly left-leaning. YouTube is very clearly left-leaning, and Rumble is obviously right-leaning, aligned with Trump, but no one can really say that Kick picks any sides. And nobody can unfairly accuse it of that. And that's the number one.
Take it deeper though. Take it deeper, because when I hear you say that, I hear that these other platforms are bought, all right? That they're in people's pockets. That's my opinion, all right? Whether it's the left or the right. I think that people come knocking on doors and saying, hey, there's this and there's that, and we don't like where this is going. And I think that that's dangerous on any level. What I love about Kick, man, is that Eddie and Bijan, they don't answer to anybody, man. They're strictly here for live streaming, and them taking out the politics out of everything is highly refreshing, because people just can come on and be themselves, talk about whatever it is that they want, respect each other's communities and things of that nature. But digging deeper in what you're saying, like if you're saying left leaning and right leaning, what I'm hearing is like, shit, I'm hearing like organizations and super PACs and for all that shit that influence, because media influences culture, man. Like what's great about Kick is it's, in my opinion, it's void of all that bullshit.
So did you used to work at Twitch, right?
Yeah, I worked at Amazon for about 3 years.
So you have like firsthand experience with that. I know. Yeah, Kick is
Listen, man, I walked around those halls with a fucking bullseye on my back, man, because I thought a little bit differently. The only reason why I was there as long as I was is because I had ideas. I was an idea man, right? And it was, my results was always spoke for itself. But it was tough being there for a while, because it was like, if you spoke out of turn, the eye of Gamora would look at you, right? But at the same time, you always had to put yourself out there in order to be progressive within live streaming, because that's what I would always argue. I'm like, guys, live streaming changes like every 3 months, man. Like there's a new creator doing something wild. There's new technology that comes out. There's a new meme that's out there that we have to understand. And sometimes when you try to adapt with the market, corporations don't like that so much.
So when is Kick going to inevitably establish advertisers? Because one of the reasons the viewing experience is so good is that you don't have to, I can't even watch Twitch. Like I'm not going to pay for this website and you get ads every like 2 minutes and just some garbage. When is Kick going to do that?
Advertising's inevitable, right? Kick runs at a loss right now. It doesn't make money, which is fine. We're cool with that. We never expected to make money in the first 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is. But yeah, at some point, we need to start offering that. And I think it's also going to be a positive for creators, right? I think it's just about finding that balance. I think right now, people are incentivized to run way too many ads, and I think it's becoming too normalized. I think, once you kind of come to Kick and watch Kick for a bit, like kind of going back to watching 15 minutes worth of ads every hour is pretty hard. So we want to utilize that advantage for as long as possible. I'm prepared to leave Kick without ads for as long as required to take the market share. To continue to make sure that when we do have ads, we have the right advertising platform. As you're aware, right? Just because you have ads doesn't mean that it ends up being the best version of that, right? I think when we get to implementing advertising, it's how we implement it. It's not just implementing it, bare bones, just sending the most irrelevant ads to people. We want to make sure it's well targeted and done properly. And I think that's going to take a lot of time to build out as it is. To make sure it's, again, it'd be impossible to be anywhere close to YouTube, right? But that's kind of your North Star, right? In terms of how you do advertising and how you get that proper return on investment for every hour watched. So to answer the question though, it's a while off, to be honest with you. We're going to need a bit of time. And I think for that time being, we use that as a great unique selling point. But when it does come time to add ads, I think it's about making sure it's done reasonably and making sure it's done in a way that doesn't just completely destroy the viewer experience. Because I think at this point in time, if you are so far ahead of the competition, you don't have to worry about the customer so much, because you have that massive stronghold, that massive upper hand. I think it'll get to the point whereby we will implement it in a way which we have to think about the customer and how it's going to be done in a way which is actually friendly towards the viewers. And I don't think Twitch is really having to worry about that too much right now, because they are so far ahead. They're crushing it. They have almost a monopoly on live streaming, right? So I think that's going to hopefully help us to push them to give a better viewer experience back to people like yourself too.
Yeah, but I think what people don't realize, or the average live streaming viewer doesn't know, is how expensive it is to host streaming. People tell me, because I get banned so much, like, why don't you just make your own website? Do you know how expensive it is to hold the bandwidth?
I'll argue back on that one. It's expensive, but not nearly as expensive as people make it out to be. Right? I think you're looking at like the public rates, right? I can't tell you exactly how far it goes down, but you can slash those rates by a lot. I think that's the biggest misconception with live streaming, and that's why when we Kick first launched, everyone's like, "It's going to fail, it's going to die," because it costs so much to live stream. Those numbers there, once you're sort of dealing at bulk, they come down a lot. They come down a lot. I think technology is getting a lot better. The ability to transfer data, the cost of doing so is coming down. So yeah, whilst it is expensive, it costs something. It doesn't cost nearly as much as, say, a public calculator you'd use to kind of average out what it'd come to. I think.
Why is Kick launching at why is Kick at a loss, operating at a loss from all the paying creators?
Well, no, the live streaming technology that costs money, of course, right? That's multiple millions a month. And then we're paying creators on top of that. We've got KCIP, right? But yeah, Kick loses money, but of course it's not something we've set aside. We understand that it's going to be losing money for whether it's the next year, 2, 3, 4, we don't know, right? I think it's about being prepared to take that position. But yeah, there's staff expenses too. There's a whole bunch of stuff that get bundled in. I think the server expenses and the bandwidth it costs for live streaming, that there is heavily, heavily exaggerated overall though. It really is compared to the actual cost of it.
It actually turned out to be a great marketing ploy for us too, where at the time of Kick's launch, the narrative around the reason why Twitch was taking 50% was, well, gosh, it's so expensive to operate this site, yada, yada, yada. We've got to take money from the creator, right? The creator's got to be the first one to pay up. And then when Kick came around with 95.5, that was a very strong statement in saying, well, actually, we're using the same IVS product. Our argument is this a case of mismanagement, or is this a case of like, do you really just need to take the creator's money?
So why did you even start Kick, Eddie? So if you could have just coasted off of the Stake website, why get into this project to begin with?
Well, we got really close with live streaming through Stake, right? It's no secret we worked with pretty much all the largest creators on Twitch, heaps of really big people in YouTube, Facebook gaming, the like of it. And we created like a whole bunch of really good connections with them. And obviously, yeah, one day, Twitch turned around and said, hey, look, you guys aren't welcome here anymore. Which was, at that point we could either be like, all right, we're done here. We'll finish up live streaming. But we're like, fuck this. We've already got these great connections. We've heard all these people out. Everyone was complaining time and time again. Like, we want better. Like, we're not treated well here. Like, we had these such close relationships with all these really big streamers. And we felt we were hearing them out more than the platform was, right? So we already had this like leg in the door, this opportunity to enter what is, there's public valuations of Twitch of like, 30 billion, 40 billion, 20 billion. Like, there's a big, potential value, enterprise value out there to gain, right? This isn't so much about making profit in the short term. This is about capturing that 10, 20, 30, 40 billion dollar worth of market share, right? That's the goal. It's not the goal to make money in the next 1 year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years. And I think obviously with everything that happened with us, potentially being forced to give up our relationships with these creators that we'd built on for the last 2-3 years, we said, fuck it, we'll enter this industry. It can't be that hard. I always joke that, fuck, it was a lot harder than we expected and has been one of the most humbling experiences of my life thus far. But at the same time, it's been incredible, right? I think also just due to the fact that I've grown up watching live streaming, right, since I was like 12 or 13. Like, live streaming goes back as far as I can remember. It's just been a part of growing up on the internet, and I've loved it. I'm a fan of live streamers, always have been. So being able to be a part of this is just amazing. Not to mention the fact you get to go up against the likes of fucking Microsoft and Amazon or whatever, right? Like, for a business person, that's like the best thing you can possibly do. It is the most exciting thing you can do. Stake is already the biggest gambling site in the world. We've kind of won that battle. Like, we're by far the biggest gambling site in the world right now, I believe, in terms of just like traffic. But this is a new venture. This is a new opportunity. This is a new path to say, hold on, we're bigger than just gambling. We can do other stuff too. And it's a competitive industry, and I'm a competitive guy. Everyone says this to me all the time. I'm just fucking crazy competitive, always have been my whole life. And it's just like, now that we're already like, 2 years in, it's like, now we may as well go 50 years in. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever it takes to win this, we're gonna win this. But yeah, I think the main reason is to win the market, right? To win the market and see how far we can stretch this industry. If there are valuations publicly out there of 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 billion for the competing live stream platforms, why can't we have that? That sounds great. let's go for that. Let's not, and like I said before, what defines success? If let's say Twitch is valued at whatever $1 billion today, I think if they truly capitalize on what live streaming has to offer, it could be tenfold that. It could be more than that, right? So that's kind of, from a business perspective, like a profitability perspective, where I see the real gold, where I see the real value. But in the interim, it's a hell of a lot of fun as well. It truly is. It's, sometimes stressful. Sometimes you deal with the good old drama that comes with live streaming and the whole content creation industry, but it's still so worth it nonetheless.
So now that Stake is already number one in gambling, can you tell these Twitter clippers to stop? If I have to see one more clickbait clip with the Stake logo, I'm gonna lose my mind. I had enough of that. And then you get the community note. This post is illegally promoting. No more Stake on logos on the Twitter clippers, please.
Yeah. So Stake doesn't actually run that campaign, but yeah, I think at that point it's certainly saturated a little bit, right? It's a hard one to quantify. I guess, yeah, Stake's whole marketing team is quite big, and the amount of things we do is quite impressive. But yeah, I must say, yeah, the whole community notes side as well. I think the community notes actually end up doing Stake more of a favor, right? Like, I don't think they're really,
they give it more.
Yeah,
I know they highlight it even more, but they put it everywhere. It's
yeah.
I
feel like Twitter's going to get rid of the Stake. But the thing is, right? If Stake doesn't do it, right, someone else will, right? You know that all these pages are now like, fuck, there's money to be made. Like, this clipping surge and how these groups operate and how this system works is going to exist with or without, say, Stake being involved, or with or without,
Yeah, you're right. If you don't do it, then Rubet or whatever, they'll step in and take the spotlight. And Twitter clippers have become influencers. It's funny, like you can become a celebrity, like Fearbuck and Scuba Ryan. They're basically influencers now. They're like on the level of notoriety as, top streamers just from clips. So I mean, you're right. Yeah, if Stake stops doing it, someone else will.
Yeah, it's fucking Scuba Ryan and Feared Buck are like control the news cycle now. It's fucking insane. Like, Feared Buck posted this like completely misinformation, like a picture of me next to Drake or something, saying like we had a falling out and his account was banned or something. And now that's apparently gospel. It's like fucking crazy. Like, this guy could just like choose his own news. It's fucking nuts. Like, to be fair, that's the great, I guess that's what free speech is all about, right? Everyone can kind of pick and choose what they want to say.
They got to be careful with that, though, man. They're going to turn into they're going to come out with the same lens that CNN and Fox News came out with, because no one's going to believe them anymore, because it's going to be so desensitized with the bullshit they run.
I know. Sneako Updates got, I think he got a cease and desist. My boy Kick Champ, he got a cease and desist. People are there might be a RICO for these clippers soon.
Wait, what happened to Sneako Updates?
He got a cease and desist from like Pokimane or something last year, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember who it was.
Man, you got me worried. He's pushing well.
Yeah, he's a good one. He's up there. Sneako Updates is like, I would say he's top five on X.
Yeah,
for sure.
It does really well.
Okay, Eddie knows Sneako Updates. Can I ask you, I don't know if anybody has clip farmed you on this, but did you say maybe I'll ask Santa Maria first, your Mount Rushmore of streamers?
Oh shit. My Mount Rushmore of streamers, I'm going to have to go with Neon. I'm going to have to go with Jack Doherty. I'm going to have to go with, let's round it out with Zerka and Heel Mike.
Okay, 2023. Eddie, who's your? I would love to see Zerka back. I would love to see Zerka back. But
honestly, I look at it. I look at it from the perspective of who's putting in the most effort, who has the most impact on the live streaming, world right now. I certainly put Kai up there, Speed right there, Aiden up there, and XQC. Like, they were the four people. Like, when we started Kick, it's like, we want these four people. It's no secret. Obviously, we're very fortunate to have Aiden and XQC here. Kai and Speed, they'll be here one day, I'm sure. I hope so. But I think they're all doing great stuff. I think, behind them, I think there's a whole lot of other names that come to mind, but they're certainly the four for people at the forefront of live streaming, in my opinion.
Chat's like now you're.
Yeah, I'm checking.
They're saying
I'm checking chat now. Did I miss anything? I don't know. Yeah. You got to be careful with those ones. But Sneaker, I tell you what, I think it's been a really awesome conversation. Appreciate you coming in. It's getting to like 4:30 here. I'm conscious I'm going to end up saying something I'll regret if I don't get some sleep.
Thanks a lot to the Santa Maria. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate you having me on. I think it's a good conversation, and I look forward to seeing what Kick has in store in 2025. All blessings to you and to this platform.
I'm looking forward to some IRL New York City streams, maybe.
I think that's going to be in the works.
All right. That's awesome. Have an amazing day.
Bye.
Catch up. Awesome. That was a good Kick Talk. That was great, man. Really great episode. Yeah. With tips out and around OTK and everything that's happening there. That was amazing chatting there and looking forward to continuing that discussion, and then completely bit of a 180 towards Sneeko and moderation and free speech and sort of more of these like sensitive subjects and you know how Kick sort of sees itself in the bigger picture of the live streaming space. You know, really great discussions.
Eddie, man, we got range, man. We got range. The live streaming is so wide open, man. So wide open. And Kick can take it in so many different directions, man. And what's great is having a forum like this where we're not in some echo chamber in a meeting room trying to guess. We're just out here talking and hearing it firsthand, no matter if it's good, bad, or ugly, man.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think, you know, with Sneeko coming on, he could have said a whole range of things to us, right? You know, like he got banned for 3 times for what he believes to be relatively unfair, which, you know, again, I can have my own opinion on. I think, you know, I somewhat lean towards what his sentiment. Again, I think, you know, anything could have been said at that point, but that's what the great thing about live streaming is. That's what TIPSOUT was talking about as well. Like, you know, you can put all this time and effort and money into like these huge productions, but nothing will ever beat the authenticity of something live and unscripted and something which you just go into and enjoy yourself. And I think it's, embodying kind of the meta of live streaming whilst actually diving deep into live streaming itself. So yeah, I think we're onto something pretty cool here with Kick Talk, and I think it was that episode there was definitely up there.
Yeah, man. And one other thing I want to call out for anyone that's out there listening or might come across this, like, listen, Sneeko arguably produces content on X and he streams on Rumble, and then you have TIPSOUT, who is arguably a Twitch streamer, right? He is part of a Twitch org that is predominantly on Twitch. So you're talking about Kick Talk bringing on people who may not think like them, you know, because they're not on platform and hearing it out. Like, I think Kick Talk should be doing more of this stuff to hear what other people off of other platforms think about Kick, man. That way we can continue to adapt.
Yeah, no, I was, you know, I think what TIPSOUT kind of mentioned a little bit in that metaphor he kind of gave was so interesting to see kind of how he perceives Kick and you know, I think how a lot of people do, right? And I think being able to take on the feedback from people, whether it's TIPSOUT or whether it's Sneeko, right? We're getting feedback from 2 very different angles, but I think, you know, helping to sort of curate the platform and make changes based on these inputs and these discussions is great. Of course, it's, you know, the best part about it as well is the sentiment from the chat. Like, I'm always watching the chat, right? And I know we don't talk to the chat during the streams to try to keep the cadence of the podcast or the talk running, but you know, you can definitely tell when the community agrees with something as well. Obviously, you got to be a little bit careful of that. I think we've got, you know, certain communities that spend more time on Kick Talk than others, but you know, you can really get that gauge for where kind of the Kick sentiment lies and whether people agree with stuff and whether people want to see more of something. It's, I don't know. It's certainly one of the best ways to do what you'd consider user testing, right? It's about as real a user testing as you can possibly do in terms of the product.
100%, man. I know it's late over there, man, so we should wrap it up. But thanks for always being, you know, willing to put yourself out there and doing this every week, man. Really appreciate it.
No worries at all. I think next 2 weeks we've got a break, right? I'll be away for the next 2 weeks, and I think we'll be putting Kick Talk on pause, but we'll be back on the 20th, is it?
Yeah.
I think the 20th.
Yeah.